Nintendo's hostile takeover, CBS All Access's library explodes, and the Clone Wars comes to a definitive end. All of this and more tonight on the Real Super Geeks.
We almost didn't do the internet opener.
And welcome to the Mother's Day edition of the Real Super Geeks. We're here with most of our regular crew, and we've got a lot of topics to cover today.
Why did you tell me that? I would have led with that.
I was about to say, I don't think we're recording.
It's the top of the list on the Trello.
Yeah, not Mother's Day, but
well,
okay.
Moms, that's why I put it at the top of the list. Anyway, so we're going to talk about that in a second. But first, let's do a quick hello from our co-host today, starting with the eyebrows of doom himself, Ross. How are you doing?
Doing good. Got fruit punch tonight. There we go.
Like
non-alcoholic.
I was going to say fruit punch or fruit punch.
Fruity.
And Jason, how are you doing this week?
I'm thankful this week is over. This has been a really rough week. So,
really?
Yeah, we had some
work.
Yeah, work has been really kind of challenging. We've had a few major bad decisions we had to make, and so you know how that goes. But
yeah,
ready for the weekend.
Good. We're having a great weekend here in Seattle. It hit 80 today. It's supposed to hit 83 tomorrow. So it's like summertime. Hard keeping people at home.
Just
Justin,
in time for that Arctic blast to come down on this end of the country.
Yeah, you guys are going to get that. Sorry. Seriously.
Yeah.
Justin, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Going back and rewatching Star Trek, actually. Other than that, yeah, it's been pretty good here the last few days.
All right, excellent. And Travis from Colorado, what's up? How's this week been for you?
I am actually really frustrated. I've got a really nasty canker sore that has been bugging the shit out of me all week, and I had a fiasco with earbuds, like my wireless earbuds. I had such a fiasco with it last weekend that just like flew me off the rail, because on Thursday my right side of my Galaxy Buds just like went like super quiet. Got in contact with Samsung about it, and they're like, yeah, it sounds like they need to be fixed. And so they looked into it, but the warranty was expired, and so they were trying to get me to find this receipt of proof of purchase. But the thing is, I got them for free after I purchased my phone, so it was like I don't have a receipt for them because I got them for free from you guys. And eventually I was like, screw it, I'll just buy a new set because I had a little extra cash. And then I ordered the wrong set from Best Buy. And so it was just like one bizarre thing after another, but I finally got them replaced. So,
you've had quarantine hell. I'm glad you survived. Shawn, how are things in your neck of the woods this week?
Well, it is at 9 p.m., a balmy 81 degrees in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I am fortunate enough to be outside tonight. It's not raining. I was thinking for Travis, because I've noticed this on Facebook a lot lately, that everyone has become a medical expert, so we can probably get the canker sore taken care of pretty quickly, considering how much our feed is filled with all these medical experts lately.
Tweet about it. Someone will give you medical advice.
Here's what you do.
I found this on the web, Frank.
Oh, hold on. Apparently Siri has some advice on this too. Okay. Thinking about bad experience with Samsung, I had a similar, far more tragic experience in the last week with Samsung. All of a sudden, my beautiful new 82-inch TV that I have been gushing over, that I got back in November, 2 inches below the top of the screen, there is a line that goes right across the entire width of it. So I contact Samsung, and they're like, don't worry about it, it's covered under warranty. We'll have somebody come out and repair it. And days later, we've got nobody available in Vegas that's qualified to work on a QLED TV. So we're going to refund you what you paid. That's great. Here's the problem with that. That TV is now $700 more everywhere I go. So I'm in a bit of a pickle with that, and I have to sit there with the line going across the top of the TV. It doesn't really, it's not that big of a deal for like a lot of like movies because of the ratio of them anyway. It's black anyway, up, on the top and the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's okay, and it's not like thick or anything. Just
it's going to
tad bit of
slowly drive you mad. Trust me.
That's pretty much
Yeah.
what it's coming down to. It's going to slowly drive me mad. So,
Well, that's the perfect way to start this show, with you slightly mad on the direction towards madness.
oh God, I usually start that way anyway. My God, but where will this lead us?
Sanity is overrated.
I
True.
tell you where it will lead us this week, and that is talking about Star Trek and motherhood.
Segue.
segue.
Which is a nice break because we always end up talking about fatherhood first. So this will be great.
Right. Well, I came across this article on StarTrek.com. It was a personal essay written by a Star Trek fan who was talking about her relationship with her own mother and how she looked up to different females on Star Trek and so forth. And I used their graphic, plus I added a little mom tattoo to I just thought it needed a little extra oomph. Anyway, so I thought it'd be a good idea to just kind of, first, say thank you to all the mothers out there, and also to talk a little about Star Trek and how it has depicted motherhood traditionally or non-traditionally, as the case may be. And the point of this particular essay was really looking closely at the most recent incarnations of Star Trek, Discovery and Picard, and the mothers that we've seen and the mother issues we've seen amongst some of the characters in those two new Star Trek series. So one of which was around Michael Burnham and how she has basically three mother figures that she has to contend with. Her own actual real biological mother, and of course Amanda, Sarek's wife, and Spock's mother, and
Philippa
Giorgio, right?
Yeah, and fair enough. Absolutely.
Both versions of Philippa Giorgio.
Well, no, the Empress is more of the cool stepmom.
Really?
She's the one that gets you the carton of cigarettes and the booze when you ask for it when you're underage. Definitely.
Yeah.
Probably.
Totally.
She's the one who tries to kill you after she serves you ganglia.
There you go. Yeah.
True, but at the same time, in her own twisted way, Emperor Giorgio loves Michael Burnham.
Very true. Yep.
She's the one. You ask for beer, she'll get you a fifth of vodka.
Yeah,
I always say this about parenting in general, is that like you get the best, parents do the best they can do, period, at the end of the day. It's whether, no matter how good they are or how bad they are, it's who they are, it's what they know, so that goes for the Empress as well. So. Are we just going to talk? I'm just curious. Are we going to talk about all Star Trek mothers?
Well,
or
not
just
necessarily
from the new series.
No, I mean, we can talk about any significant mother issues in Star Trek. But those are just the three that I think have dealt with it a lot more directly and recently, and it makes more sense that are more modern versions of Star Trek. But how do you feel Star Trek has portrayed motherhood in the past, and is today so different from the past?
Well, if I could start this off, I was thinking about this on like who I would rate the best portrayals of mothers on Star Trek, because I think in general, when I think about this, it's been very diverse, and it's one of the things I think Trek has done well. I think Trek sucks at romantic relationships, but I think they've done a pretty good job at portraying familial relations, parent and child relationships.
Except
except Worf. Worf's terrible. God, terrible father. But
well, not his human parents.
No, his parents. But he being a father to Alexander was just horrible.
Oh yeah, he was a terrible father.
But I would say I would like to, if I could rank them, I would say that I think my favorite portrayals of mothers are all for there's three of them, and there are three different reasons. One, and these are in no particular order, except for like my last one, which is like I think the best one. Amanda with Spock and Michael Burnham. I thought she was outstanding. That was beautifully written in season 2 of Discovery. It was a wonderful relationship between, and it was very tortured, and it was a woman that would do anything for her children, which I loved about that. I cannot stand the character of Keiko O'Brien. I think it is the worst character in the franchise.
I think because it was written largely by men. They just didn't know how to write her.
Precisely.
I love the idea of Keiko.
Yep,
I just
so
thought
do
the
I.
execution was pretty bad.
Her best
Exactly.
moment was when she was facing off against Vedic Wynn.
Well,
She had her moments for sure.
Yes, and I always, it's like Keiko O'Brien is the original Karen, is what I always say. But it is no knock on Rosalind Cho or anything like that, because it was poorly written. However, as a mom, I thought she was great because she was just damn exhausted by Miles and all those kids all the time. And that was so real to me. And the ultimate mom, I think, of the entire franchise is Janeway. I thought Janeway was the absolute best mother. She was, and you know, despite all that show's problems, it's like I always felt like Janeway was my mom. I mean, she had to be a parent to 150 members of that crew, and even Tuvok, she treated like you're my kid, so I give complete credit for that. Even though she never really was technically a mother, she really was the mother of that entire ship. So that's my
bad mother.
Oh, I don't know. I thought she did a good job. I thought she really seemed to care deeply, as if they were her own kids. These were her own children. So I give credit where credit's due on that, as much as I criticize Voyager. So
I would agree with that. Other perspectives on Star Trek and motherhood. Travis, you got one?
I mean, solid points from Shawn there. If I have to add any, I will say Moogie.
Yes.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about her.
Yeah. Yes.
With Moogie.
Talk about a woman who sets an example for her kids.
Yep.
Right. And she loves her kids.
Yes.
She loves Quark and she loves Rom, but she doesn't put up with their shit.
Yes.
Doesn't put up with anybody's shit, not even the Nagus.
I'll also go ahead and give a shout out to Lana Troy, particularly for the episode Dark Page. I thought she was fantastic.
That's her best episode, without question. I totally agree.
Yes, Lana Troy is very, she's annoying. She's very much a gimmick, and she doesn't have a lot of strong episodes, but I mean, that is the exception. And she has some very real emotions in that one that are just, they scream mother.
I know we're talking about the mom episodes, but Lwaxana was awesome in Deep Space Nine.
Yes. I was just about to say that.
Those were her best appearances when she was on Deep Space Nine.
I
feel like Q's best appearances were on Deep Space Nine.
We had one, though, right?
And it was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
He was great. Ironically on Voyager, but that's a discussion for another time.
He was okay on Voyager, but I thought him and Cisco were the best. Anything else, Travis?
I guess the last one I will give a shout out to, despite not seeing her very often, was Jennifer Sisko. The way that her passing affects Jake and Ben later on in life, you could tell that she meant a lot in her. I can't talk tonight. You could tell that she meant a lot in their life, and the few times that we do see her and how it affects them, I think is worth a mention.
Yeah, I think it's curious because her big episode was I think, is it Through Their Looking Glass or is it the one after? It's not Through the Looking Glass. It's the one after.
I know which one you're talking about.
The mirror universe episode where she shows up, and what's clear in that episode is that despite the fact that Jake Sisko is not her biological son, not her real son, is that she, as even though she would have been just as loving, and even that universe's Jennifer Sisko would have been loving and compassionate and caring as our Jennifer Sisko, and it's almost a shame that the entire series was premised with the loss of Jennifer Sisko, because we never got to really know that Jennifer Sisko, and I suspect she would have been wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jason, how about you? Star Trek.
Horta. The Horta.
Good call.
I mean, you guys called all the other ones, right?
Yeah.
I mean, except for maybe Crusher.
Crusher.
Yeah.
I know, but I mean, Crusher. The one thing I agree with in this article is that the depiction of art of Crusher as the doubting mom on the teenage boy is spot on. Like Wesley was partly one of the most annoying characters in TNG for his run because of Beverly Crusher, and I mean, and the way she just
It was
interacted
because of
with
Gene
him.
Roddenberry. Let's be honest.
No, but I mean, the Horta, like, you know, here's a mom who is protecting her children at all costs. I think that's a very much important part of motherhood.
I can't disagree. In fact, I loved the Horta episode. I had Hortas join Starfleet when I was writing Hidden Frontier. They actually saved the day in 2 episodes, and so yeah, I love Hortas. I'm a big
Poor Schmitter. Poor Schmitter. Oh no.
Oh yeah, poor Schmitter.
Did they ever make those 4 episodes or no? I can't remember if they did.
We had 2 Horta episodes in Hidden Frontier, and one in
I
the
remember one
in the 5th season and one in the 6th season.
We need to get Science Division to make a Horta.
What?
We need to get Science Division, the one who made the Tribbles, to make a
Oh
Horta.
yeah, to make it.
Oh.
Yeah, the
You
trouble, we
lost
had to
me
do a
there for a
CGI
second.
Horta, and I'm not super happy with how it came out, but you know, remember this is like 2004, and it did
I thought
throb,
Rob did
like
pretty good
the little
considering.
lava parts of it throbbed, so it, you know, was better than what you saw in the
I
original
think he did pretty
series.
good in considering. He did good in considering what he had as his disposal, which was lightweight.
Right. So Ross,
There
moms,
you go.
and I was thinking about Hortas. Sorry, they're very distracting
Good
creatures.
Lord.
Oh, moms in Trek. We've had a few. Number 1 for me, of course, is Amanda Grayson. The version that stood out to me the most was, 2009. Winona Ryder
yes.
as Amanda.
Yes,
She was a really, for as short a time as she was on screen, she had a major impact on the entire film.
Mhm.
So I absolutely adored her as Amanda, and of course, dang, I don't have that one pulled up. The actress who portrayed her in Discovery season 2, absolutely spellbinding.
Knocked out of the park.
Absolutely.
And I think she's been treated well in every iteration of Star Trek. The character has been treated well in every iteration of Star Trek we've seen.
But she didn't have the impact that she did in those 2 versions. She was there. She was the example. She was the embodiment of Spock's human side, but she didn't have that kind of upfront impact as she did in 09.
I don't know. I mean, you got to look at what the Journey to Babel, where like she basically like has like this really like serious on-screen disagreement with Spock over, you know, life-saving procedure for his father. And I mean, you know, and then we see her in you know, later and in The Voyage Home, where she kind of is an integral part of his reintegration. I mean, I thought Jane Wyatt did a great job portraying portraying her. But I mean, I to your point though, that like that's not to take away what was brought into the character from 2009 in Discovery. I think she had every time she's been portrayed, it's been spellbinding in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course,
Ross, Mia Kirshner, by the way, is
thank you.
Thank you.
Beverly, definitely another one of the top moms of Trek. She was most that was a core part of her character in TNG. I think her portrayal as a mother was a pretty good one, even if as best it could be when dealing with a child wonderkind who's kind of the Deus Ex of the early part of the show.
Putting it lightly.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys have pretty much named all the others. Probably the best out of all those would be.
Well, you're forgetting the ones from the new series. We've got L'Rell, who
Laurel as
Oh,
a
me.
mother, we really didn't get to see a lot of it. She took the title for herself after the rather gruesome display after having to exile Vok Tyler, Ty Vok, Votai, whatever you want to call him.
I just call him Tyler.
Yeah,
Gosh.
okay. But we didn't get to see her as a mother. We got to see that the trepidation of her publicly taking responsibility for her child, but then she had to pivot from that and become the resolute victim of an act of terror, of murder. And then
but see, I would not agree with that. I don't think she had to become any kind of victim. What she did was, I mean, she was in a strictly factual sense, but I think that the genius behind Laurel and motherhood is not really how she treated her own son, because she had to send him away, but rather how she embraced the idea of motherhood in her role as the Chancellor of the Klingon Empire, which is something brand new to Klingon culture.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me that the idea of motherhood, even within the Klingon culture, ended up being this unifying idea that in some ways cemented her role as Chancellor, in very much the same way that Queen Elizabeth I, who was the Virgin Queen, she never married because she was married to England, and she served for a very long time, under those auspices, and it was one of the reasons why her enemies kept trying to get her married off, and she refused. So that's the aspect of motherhood I think is interesting about Laurel, is really how she took the idea of motherhood and applied that to the way that she was ruling Klingon, the Klingon
Do
Empire.
we have
and tragic with the eventual end of that, where women weren't allowed to become leaders.
You
in the
win
Empire.
some, you lose some.
Do we know what the deal was with that baby that got beheaded? What was the deal with that? Was that a fake baby? Was it
That was
real?
a fake
it was a fake baby.
Fake baby,
Okay. It wasn't like a clone baby or anything. I mean,
I think it was cloned, but with like missing brainstem or something. I don't know.
They say in the episode that the Section 31 were able to replicate the head down to the, like, can't remember the exact way they phrased it, but basically it was just a replication. Like, they replicated it right down to the, like, genetic secret.
So in parallel to that, you think Georgiou kind of took on that idea as the harsh mother of her empire when she ruled?
Well,
if we knew more backstory about how she came to rule, I think that you could make more of a case like that.
In that same episode, she straight up says that children are parasites and that she had to have people raise her own children, or she never would have gotten anything done in the empire. So,
Well, she's not
Says
wrong.
that. She says that, but at the same time, there is a fierceness of her love towards Michael Burnham, both versions.
And look at how she interacted with that baby ever so briefly.
Yeah, that's right.
I love Philippa Georgiou as a character. So
I do too. I miss the original just because she was so great. But she's gone.
The Empress is just too much fun.
I'm curious of where she'll go in season 3, and I'm very excited for her show. So
yeah, I'm very excited to see what era she'll end up in Section 31.
Well, I hope she goes back in time, because
that's what I think is going to happen too.
Because I would hate to see a Section 31 show without Tyler.
Agreed. Okay.
Or it can take place in that in-between time.
Sure, but I like the Tyler idea. I like the idea of telling that story of what happened between what we saw in Discovery Season 2 and what we ended up seeing by the 24th century.
Or they could bring Tyler to the future.
That's too timey-wimey. That's too timey-wimey.
It's going to be timey-wimey one way or another.
Right, because if you're taking Tyler to the future, then like he's going to have the romantic relationship with Burnham. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it'll just it's messy. It's better for her to go back. And it makes more sense anyway, because she's not part of the main cast. So and she has to have her own show, so it makes sense. Justin, you want to wind us up with moms? Nothing more to say. Great. I've said all I need to say, but
Moving on.
yay, moms! Thank you for your for everything you've done for us and for Star Trek.
Poor Raffi.
Oh yeah, I was going to talk about Raffi really quick. Boy, a broken mother.
Today, so.
What's that?
I've already talked about Raffi today, so.
Not on this show.
True enough.
Okay, a quick thing on Raffi. Who has anything to say about her?
The only thing I would say is that it just seemed like tropish for her to be a bad mom.
I don't think she was a bad mom until the events preceding Picard. But she let her obsession get the better of her, and
I know, but like,
fell away.
But like again, like this like whole like alcoholic, drug addict, bad mom. This seems tropish.
Okay, so by trope you mean cliche, because a trope is not.
Okay, you're right. It's cliche.
But but what other kinds of life events would send someone into a spiral like that? I mean, losing a child, losing your entire career.
Like she's had her world has fallen apart, and I very much like. I don't know how many of you are following what I'm doing in the Star Trek group right now. But I mean, today I just wrote out quite an analysis on Raffi. I mean, I very much came to her defense because I know she is a character that gets a lot of disdain from the fans for whatever reason.
Really?
I've seen some people just complaining about everything with regarding her, whether it's her abuse problems or the fact that she calls Picard JL or the fact that
yes, I've seen those, but those are basically nonsensical criticisms. But go ahead.
At the time, and even today when I was coming to her defense, I've had people commenting "Oh, she's a terrible character. If there was a list about the worst 10 protagonists, she wouldn't be fit for it." I'm just God damn it! I've seen a few. I mean, there's a lot of people who are very much Raffi's a good character, but I mean, there's definitely the people who have some disdain for her for whatever reason.
And there's a lot of the haters that are the ones that are complaining about Raffi.
Well, this isn't a Discovery topic. This is a mom topic. So let's. Anything else you want to say, Travis, about her as a mom?
I'm very curious I'm hoping that come later seasons we will see her relationship improve with her family. That's one of the things I'm really hoping to see from her, because as bad as it is for her right now, by the time Picard ends, we see her attempting to fix her life, attempting to get things better for herself, and I'm really pulling for her. I think she has a very fun journey ahead of her, and if it gets her back in favor with her family, I will be happy.
All right. Well, we've been talking about Discovery, so let's talk a little bit about Discovery. We have word from the folks who know that it is coming, and they are in post-production, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting. No real clear sense of when it's going to be done. So when do you guys think we're likely to see Discovery?
Later than we think.
So if we're thinking summer, you're thinking really fall.
Yeah.
I will say I will go late July, mid-August. That'll be my range.
I think that's very optimistic. I would expect to be late September, early October, somewhere between late September and late October is where I would think.
I'll go crazy.
I don't even think we're going to be that. We'll probably get lower decks before we get to Discovery, I'm betting that we may not even see Discovery till January
I
2021.
don't think it's going to be that long.
That's pessimistic, because they're working on it. It's just
Right.
slower than normal.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much more difficult when you're with the editing and the visual effects and of course the score to be able to do all that when you're not together. Everybody's and you've got shit, man. If you if you're a parent, I mean, you know, just the bat shittery that goes on just trying to organize a Zoom conversation with your kids for a simple assignment. I mean, my wife's a teacher and she has to do this, you know, I think twice a week they're doing this, and it's madness. Imagine trying to do that trying to coordinate all this for a feature a feature film type television show that requires all these moving parts to sync together. Right?
And I think the hardest part, right, the more complicated part is the score, and that's done last.
Right. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago,
Right.
And that one will be that's the toughest part because
I think they're using something called a jigsaw technique in order to record pieces of the score or edit it all.
Well, you got to remember, Jason, we were discussing this last week. The issue is they have to do this, and you know, this is traditionally done by the orchestra being there, no matter how many pieces it is, together.
It's a full orchestra.
It's a full orchestra, right? And they do this. It's in reaction to what's going on the screen, which makes it particularly complicated. And the thing about this is the thing about too is that, look, Jeff Russo is an incredibly talented composer, and his work is very complex. It's not like just like you're going in there and it's like, you know, the same damn composers that did all the same basic score for Who's the Boss and Growing Pains during the 80s. You know what I'm saying? This is high level work here, and it's this probably, I would imagine, even more than the VFX work and the editing, this is probably the most complicated, you know, part of this process is getting that score together. I mean, sure, they could have some fly-by-night do it, but it wouldn't be the same. You know, this is a
well.
game
I don't think it's a question of a fly-by-night, you know, replacement for Jeff Russo. I think it's more a question of literally how do you end up getting that score performed? Right.
Yeah, but my point being though is that, you know, this is a Game of Thrones level type show here. Sure. That, you know, it's not, there's nothing generic about this, so it's vastly more complicated to do.
Well, as I see it, there's a number of. I'm sorry, Justin. What were you saying?
I read somewhere one Twitter post they're having them do a jigsaw technique where they're actually recording individually, and then they're just piecing it all.
Yeah, they're doing it they're doing multi-track, which is basically how like every album you've ever purchased in your life is done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like every CD, every pop album or rock album, and that's fine for that when you've got 5 instruments.
Right.
You have 50 to 100.
And you're not trying to match it up with what's going on screen. So that's where it becomes obviously.
Yeah, it's not impossible. I mean, you could conceivably do it by sections.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just very complicated.
Yeah.
So you mix down like your horns, you mix down your wood winds, you mix down your percussions, and then you mix them all down together. But that also takes a lot more time than if you were just recording the orchestra in the orchestra chamber, you know, along with what's going on the screen.
Yeah. Any of the alternatives that they have open to them will take longer than recording the full orchestra. That's the big except for synthesized. That can be done much quicker.
Yeah. No. Synthesized doesn't sound good.
Depends on the setting.
Not for this. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, for something like Star
well,
Trek,
sure, but you have to remember 2 things. One is it's not permanent. We live in a media age of George Lucas, who, if he doesn't like something, corrects it. They may go with a temp track for the premiere of the show, and then go back after the pandemic and replace it because it's going to be available.
If they were going to do that, we would already have it.
I will say on
And
that note, Carlos, they still haven't corrected the spelling for simulation in the season finale of the first season of Discovery. So don't hold your
I will say this. There is an artist I follow, Miracle of Sound. His name is Gavin Dunn. He does a lot of synthesized music, and without a critical ear, you can't tell the difference. He does amazing work across multiple different genres of music.
Yeah, I mean, synthesized music isn't what we're not talking about like 80s synthesized music anymore. We're not talking about right, like it's not going to be the fucking Blade Runner soundtrack. It's and not criticizing because it's perfect for that film, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the ability to make it literally sound indistinguishable to the ear to a full orchestra, which is absolutely possible with the technology available today.
Yeah, I think it'll come down to a question of timing for CBS. If doing it slows them up so much that they miss what they would consider their ideal release window, then they may go with a synthesized score.
Yeah, I think that's a big point, because when you think about this, this is their flagship. Okay, this is the jewel in the crown for the company, for the media conglomerate as a whole, and of course their streaming service. So it's kind of like with Battlestar Galactica, that from the 90s, you can't have so much of a space in between where interest starts waning in it. I think Star Trek, I think they're right, their philosophy and their plan for the franchise right now, and that is of trying to keep as much new Star Trek on continually as possible, is a good one. And this really throws a monkey wrench into that. They need to keep Star Trek in the public eye, and we need to know that they need to be able to know that it's not going to be 18 months between seeing any Star Trek. That's why I'm hoping Lower Decks it comes out in between all of this to give us something, just to keep the flow going, if you know what I mean.
But this kind of goes into our next topic, right? So
I was actually going to say that, Jason, because it actually does have to do with the changes that we see probably coming for CBS All Access as one of the upsides of its recent remergification with Viacom. Gives it access to a lot of new content and legacy older content from Viacom's many cable networks, including MTV, Nickelodeon, etc. So that does change the position of CBS All Access in terms of having content available, fresh content, or legacy content, but represented as part of that sort of content desert we're expecting as a result, in the wake of the coronavirus. But it's a big deal. One of the issues is, how is this going to affect the branding of CBS All Access, which is still very much at this point connected to the CBS television network? And will we see a branding change in addition to an expansion of the platform? Viacom CBS seems pretty committed to moving forward with this amped up streaming platform built atop CBS All Access. What do you guys think?
I think we will. I mean, they've already started to rebrand everything else, so it would make sense eventually to get around to rebranding All Access. It'll be like probably a Viacom CBS All Access, something like that. Or they'll completely rename it to something new.
Well, I think logging in today, as a matter of fact, the big splash page as soon as you log in, Paramount Movies. So they're already getting it out there that they have all of this new content that's here, and more is on the way. So they are thinking ahead. As far as rebranding goes, I'm not sure what they're going to do as far as naming. It seems like changing changing things too much would only work to their detriment.
I think
Right.
they should go with Star Trek streaming and so much more. That should be the whole name of the
Well, I think
just do that
yeah.
right there.
I mean, I think the merger has demonstrated some weakness among the Viacom product, and I think CBS always went into this in a stronger position from a branding perspective. CBS had a more respectable brand. They were the more established brand. They're the ones that, like, you know, when you think about entertainment, you know, they were the number one television network in the country for the longest time. You know, I think that if, you know, one of the biggest mistakes that Viacom could do would be to trash that brand in favor for what I really do believe is their lesser brands, Paramount, you know. And I mean, I would really like even naming the company Viacom CBS, I think was a mistake in a lot of ways, because it focuses on the past and not so much the future. Whereas, you know, I really do think CBS, just branding it CBS or CBS Viacom and leaving CBS as kind of the premier would have been better. I think if they try to rebrand this, you know, I would hope that they find a way to tie it to legacy CBS and CBS branding, maybe the I.
Yeah, I was going to say the I. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
As opposed to like something that
as opposed to the peacock.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that.
God, that's such a terrible name. I hate
it
that
really
so
is.
much.
No, I think it's a great name. I think it's a great way to tie back. Yeah, it's a great way, because when you think of NBC, you think of the peacock colors, you think of that. So
old people think of it that way. Young people don't.
Carlos,
I'm old.
Did you just call me old?
I did. You have gray in your beard, Jason.
Don't worry. David O'Neill's watching right now. Just called Carlos fat. So
well, David O'Neill,
well,
you are fat, and everybody knows it.
I was going to point out about this, that when I first read this, I commented on this, that this was not unexpected. This merging of content on the CBS All Access platform. We've been talking about it for months, that we expect this to come. I'm surprised it's starting as quickly as it is. But then again, I'm not, based on how uncertain everything is right now, and they need content to compete. Plain and simple, they need content. So, but what was really interesting to me, I think the most interesting part of the whole story is that what they're saying now is that they are working on deals to making this a global platform, which is a game changer for them, because this means that eventually
that puts them square on the same level as Netflix and Amazon
and Disney Plus and yes
Disney Plus.
and HBO Max. Okay, but and that's another thing about this too, I think, is why they jumped in so quick on this, is because it's not a coincidence that HBO Max is offering their service for $12 a month for a year now, and that announcement came like 3 days before this announcement from Viacom CBS, and we also come to find out that if you're already an HBO subscriber and you get HBO Go or HBO Now, you get upgraded to HBO Max. It's all just becoming HBO Max, which is fucking amazing.
Yay!
Right. So the bigger issue, again, I said, is the global issue, because it doesn't just put them on the same global stage as Amazon and Netflix and Disney Plus, HBO Max. What it does is, if they're able, once they do this, they're not going to be dependent on Netflix and Amazon. Oh, bless you, Rona. They're going to be there. So I would expect that they're going to start, like Disney did, taking their Star Trek and other content off of those platforms once they go global, which makes sense, because it's going to be far more profitable for them to get revenue from their own streaming service, as opposed to having to license it out to these other platforms. So that's I think the biggest news out of that whole announcement. So,
well, the news hook from today, especially, was around Viacom CBS's financial performance and how its streaming division is doing the best of all of its divisions.
Surprise!
So
Shocker.
for for the haters who think that somehow CBS All Access is a loser, that's not what the company is telling its stockholders. Which, if they were lying about it, would be a federal crime. So I'm tending to believe them more than I believe you haters.
Right. It's interesting because I actually came up with some verbiage for our company's quarterly earnings call today. And that's one of the things that I had to make sure was vetted by legal, was that, like, if you lie, you're going to jail.
Yeah, it's a federal crime.
Yeah,
no two ways around that.
Yeah, I don't think the types who make these kinds of claims, and we know who you are.
Just remember, Martha Stewart went to federal prison for a whole lot less. Keep that in mind.
But Netflix is going to buy them.
Oh, of course, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so they say.
Right. I mean, we should all get our news from Midnight's Edge.
Yes, because
also said Seth MacFarlane was buying Star Trek.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, people need to work through, like parse these kinds of rumors, because, first of all, why would, after literally years of trying to reunite Paramount and Paramount, Viacom, and CBS, why would they want to turn around and sell it when it's their strongest performing part of their company, a company that's not performing that strongly overall? Why would you sell your crown jewels? That just makes zero sense to me.
And not only that, it's
because YouTubers aren't making shit, and they need to make up the story of the week.
Well, no, I mean, I think. Listen, we talked about this today. I think if you're Sherry Redstone, and you want to get to a place to where you don't have to give a crap about anything, right? You're going to have to get out of the business. How do you do that? Well, you sell and stuff. I think that, like, the question is CBS, 75% of CBS, or of Viacom CBS, of the Class A stocks is owned by a privately held company.
Mm-hmm. National Amusements.
So there's not going to be a hostile takeover. There's not going to be a hey, we're just going to buy enough CBS stock because, it's cheap enough. Netflix can't buy enough CBS stock or Viacom stock because it's cheap enough and they want to buy it. It's something that would have to be a structured sale that, that the owners of, that the owners of National Amusements would want to proceed with. Is there a situation where that could happen? Perhaps. We don't know. We don't know their situation.
It's technically possible, but when you control 75% of the stock, you're the one in the driver's seat, not not someone like Netflix.
Right.
Technically possible. Technically possible. I always go back to this, and it's also technically possible that Blue Monkeys might fly to my ass, but I don't think that's.
I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen.
It's just not probable.
Hand to God. There was that one orange one too, which I don't know what was up with that.
Yeah,
the point is that Netflix has $5 billion of cash. CBS has $11 billion in market capitalization. So again, unless it's something that Sherry Redstone really wants to do, it's not going to happen. So it's a moot discussion.
Well, though this notion that they be looking to pick up Star Trek is completely contradictory to everything they've said in the past about how Netflix dumping Discovery, and how they didn't want anything to do with Picard. I mean, it's completely contradictory. So pick a story, guys, and stick with it. I mean,
the story is going to be whatever is going to generate clicks in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no coherent narrative.
No, exactly. Right. Yeah. There's no coherent narrative.
Deniability.
Because
the only plausible deniability they have is they keep saying rumors are. We can't tell you who, but they say. But this is a rumor, so keep that in mind. But then they go on and talk about it as if it's fact. So
it's fact, right. Exactly.
Well, and the headline is in big bold letters: Star Trek failing. Sherry Redstone angry at Kurtzman. He's out. Small question mark.
Tiny little question mark.
My favorite whenever Dean Cox was trying to claim that Alex Kurtzman punched the TV because of his rumor or some crazy crap.
My favorite is Dayton Ward. He has a meme that says Alex Kurtzman has gone 0 days without being fired, which is hilarious.
Dayton
Yeah.
is a gift to the
Oh.
fandom.
Without
He really
question.
is. He really
Yes,
is.
yes.
And by the way, I'm just
Hey,
letting you know
Marty.
right now. If he's watching tonight, he's going to find out he got a little weepy when I gave Carlos his birthday present. Dayton, you might be getting the same thing in the mail come next month.
I have it right here.
Yeah, just maybe if you're a good boy.
I didn't get the Enterprise for my
Is
birthday.
it having space warp troubles like in that 3D photo?
Yeah, I didn't play so well in 3D.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to bring back the Ask Dayton segment here.
We should. We
Oh,
haven't
yes.
had him on the show in a
We
while.
should.
So
Yep.
good idea, Ross.
We haven't had anybody
What
on.
segment?
We need to.
Ask Dayton.
Dayton.
Ask
We
Dayton.
need to have an Ask Dayton segment.
Is that original Constitution class you got there, Jason? Or
No, it's the Discovery.
oh, it is. Okay. Yeah, it's a beautiful ship, I have to say.
Yep.
And thank
It
you
is
again.
my favorite. It's my second favorite incarnation of the 1701,
What's the first, the refit or the Enterprise E?
the refit.
refit. Yeah, refit.
That was my first.
Well, okay, let's move on to Travis's favorite topic for the show, which is
Animal
his
Crossing.
review. His review of
Animal
the
Crossing.
season and series finale of Star Wars Clone Wars, which was released this week on Disney Plus, and two pretty good reviews that I've seen. Travis, you want to bring us up to speed? Okay, that was great. Now, next topic. Kidding. Go ahead.
Travis, can we try to be spoilery free with this?
I will
for
do
those of
my
us who-
best not. I know that some of you are still watching, despite the fact that I've been for weeks to watch it. I will do my best not to be spoilery. I am very, very impressed with how this series has wrapped up. I did not expect it to go the way it did, especially since it started like any other season of the Clone Wars. I mean, you had 3 arcs. The first one I wrote out 4 reviews for each episode of the first arc, which I thought was a very fun way to get back into it. A nice way to test the waters. I guess that first arc was actually based on a pitch that they originally were going to do before the show got the plug pulled on it the first time, and they did some reworking into it, and I thought they made it work out pretty well, especially bringing back Echo. And sorry, that was a sport. I'll try my best.
Just gloss over it. Keep going. Keep moving, Travis.
Just go.
Along,
just
move
go.
along.
The second arc, I honestly I thought was a bit of a drag. Honestly, there was a lot of table setting for the final arc in this one. Mainly, it focuses on what happens to Ahsoka after the events of the 6th season. I don't know how many of you have seen that, but after that, it's an adventure. All I can really say there. It's easily the weakest. It's kind of after it wrapped up, I very much was like, I really hope they got something big planned, because this was not exactly what I thought was going to happen. And as soon as the final arc began, I immediately realized, oh, they're doing something way different, because they opened it up completely different. I talked a bit about it last time I was on the show. Talked a bit about how they were doing this final arc, and it's very much an arc that runs parallel to the events going on in Revenge of the Sith, and they pulled it off really damn well. Like, Obi-Wan and Anakin are barely in this final arc, and one of the
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's actually pretty good. There's some moments that very much there are moments that give you ideas of what exactly is happening as far as the Revenge of the Sith is concerned, but they do a good job of leaving it out of the arc and focusing on their story, if that makes any sense whatsoever. They'll drop this hint, oh, well, Dooku is now dead, and they'll say like, oh, when did this happen? You know, that kind of thing. They handle the exposition part really well and get to focusing on their story. And oh my God, it's just like, we've all seen Revenge of the Sith. We all know what happens. And despite the fact that you know what happens, the buildup to some of the most emotional moments of that movie are just, I can't put it into words just how fantastic it is executed. Like, the tone does a complete 180 in this final arc, and like, a lot of it is just the atmosphere and presentation. Like, the presentation and animation in this is cinematic at times. I told Shawn this in the group the other day. It's just downright gorgeous. The music, ironically enough, I know we talked a bit about this earlier, it straight up feels like it's out of Blade Runner at times. Like, the music is just very atmospheric in that. And
Yeah.
when some of the plot points hit, like, it really hits hard, and oh God, I'm losing myself. Like,
well, you collect yourself. I want to point this out that the best thing that's happened to Clone Wars is it being presented in 4K on Disney Plus, without a question. I went back and rewatched. I was a huge fan of the series, the first 5, and then when we got that bonus 6th season, I was over the moon for it. And I was actually happy with the resolution of that. I thought it was well done. I'm glad we've got a final season. I've gone back now because it's been so long since I watched it. I did not want to pick up season 7 without having rewatched the whole series again. And I am absolutely blown away by the presentation in 4K on this. When you're watching the exterior shots, it is indistinguishable at times from live action exterior shots in good space sci-fi, cinematic space sci-fi. It is absolutely mind-blowing how gorgeous this presentation is. So, and I can only imagine, and this is even, I'm only 4 episodes into season 1, and this came out in 2008. I can only imagine how it looks for season 7, which I haven't even touched yet. So,
oh my God,
I'm just going based on prior experience. I can only imagine it's absolutely mind-blowing.
But by the time it ended, I was very much like, I had some mixed feelings. There were some things I feel like it could have done more, but the more and more I reflected on it, the more and more I realized, like, it ended on a really good note. And it made me really want to pick up on Rebels again, especially since I'm in the 2nd season where Ahsoka comes back. And hi, son.
Hey, son.
She's alive.
It picks, like, the 2nd season of Rebels is where a lot of the Clone Wars Clone Wars events came in, and a lot of the events that pick up from that. But as far as, like, where this series ends, it's damn near perfect. As far as the arcs themselves are concerned, if I had to rank each arc individually, the first arc I would give, maybe a 6.5 out of 10. It was a good way to get back into it. The second arc, again, a bit of a drag. It has some essential table setting for the final arc, but I mean, it just didn't really go anywhere at times. There was an episode that straight up, like, I'm not spoiling anything here. It's a Prison Break episode that ends with them getting right back in prison. Like, no joke.
I got a quick question for you, Travis, before I forget. I rated back before the Disney Wars, as I like to call them, came out, and it's not offense. I'm just trying to. I'm not saying it to be snarky. It's just to distinguish between the old Star Wars and now the Disney era. But before the Disney Wars films came out and the TV series, and of course the animated series, my impression of the first 6 seasons of the Clone Wars was that not only was it the best Star Wars of the 21st century, it was also right up there with the original trilogy. What's your impression after now seeing the final season? Where would you rank the Clone Wars in the pantheon of the entire franchise, as it were?
That's a really good question. And I mean, I've said this before on the show. I've said, like, this is a show that is so good that I almost borderline refuse to believe takes place in the universe during a time of...
In the prequel universe?
Yes.
Yeah, right, I know.
Terrible.
Yeah. Right.
But I mean, like, especially after this final arc, which is easily, like, it's either a 9 or a 10 out of 10. It's that good. It's fantastic. I don't know. It's on par with the original trilogy, if you ask me. This entire series is on par with it. I will go on record.
Very good.
Quote it. It's on par.
How much of the credit do you give to Dave Filoni?
You know, I don't know how much credit I give to him. I don't know too much about the crew of the Star Wars, Clone Wars, as much as I am, like, familiar with, like, that's definitely a Rick Berman trait, you know, that kind of thing.
It's funny you say that, because here's how I look at Dave Filoni. It's you brought up Rick Berman. This is a great time to bring this up. I've always looked at Dave Filoni as a Ronald D. Moore of Star Wars. Seriously.
That's a good comparison.
Except for George Lucas was like, all right, cool. Okay, we'll do things your way. You got good ideas, kid. And whereas...
Well, Dave Filoni, I read an interview with him today surrounding the end of Clone Wars. And one of the things he says, he was talking about his history with George Lucas. And the guy, like, we all know George Lucas has a lot of flaws.
Yes.
Not if you listen to Dave Filoni. And it wasn't a kiss-ass kind of interview, but it's clear that he reveres the man because he gave him a shot at helping create Star Wars. And so he is, is still imbued with angelic light and choruses behind him, because he's just effusive about George Lucas as a storyteller. And George Lucas is a terrible storyteller. Dave Filoni is a good one.
Right. I agree with that. And it's the amount of respect that Filoni has is completely understandable. But again, I think, at the end of the day, George knows that he's a good idea man and not so great of a storyteller, whereas he's got Dave Filoni out there being able to bring his visions to life even better than he can. I mean, he's not dumb. Look at for Empire, look at the people he brought in to make Empire. Okay, and Empire, of course, is regarded as even better than A New Hope for my generation, the one we just called Star Wars.
And then drove them away.
Well, right, because
saying.
Well, he drove. But you're talking about for the prequels. Is that what you're talking about?
He drove them away by the time Return of the Jedi came.
That's true, but on the other side of the coin, though, too, this is again, I think Jedi is saved by the fact that eventually he got his hands out of it. I think it would have been far worse. I don't think Jedi's bad by his imagination. It just doesn't stand up to the first 2 films. It's like Godfather 3.
Did you just compare Jedi to Godfather 3?
I did.
Yes, you did.
I did.
Just take that back right now.
I did.
Just take that back. No, because you said it wasn't a bad film. Godfather 3 is a bad film.
Okay, well, it's, metaphorically speaking, not an apples to apples comparison, to say the least.
Yeah, and
That's better.
minus the gangland deaths.
Exactly. But go ahead, Jason.
I think the biggest problem with George Lucas is that he needs to have someone telling him no.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And
like he had that with Star Wars and Empire and Return of the Jedi. He had someone telling him
Not so much
no.
in Return of the Jedi. He
Well,
started phasing that out. if you read the
Jedi
behind
is my
the scenes,
favorite Star Wars film. So
really,
yeah, it is.
I think that's a generational thing. I think that's
It
probably
is. So you know why? Because it is I like conclusions. And like I do. I like the conclusion films because to me that's where the story is wrapped up. And
I like it when things end.
She finally speaks.
So, question for you, Jason. Best of Both Worlds Part 1 or Best of Both Worlds Part 2?
Oh, see, that's not fair.
I'm just saying.
Oh, that's wrong.
You know,
Part 2,
because here's the deal. What made Part 1 was the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Which is the same with Empire.
Yeah, but okay, so there was no emotional closure in Best of Both Worlds 2.
Right.
That kind of like if Picard had died and he had at the end had died and Riker had to become captain of the Enterprise and he had to deal with like the emotional aspect of the closure, then I think Best of Both Worlds would have been better than Best of Both Worlds 1. With Return of the Jedi, like to me, the most impactful, meaningful lightsaber fight in all of Star Wars is the fight between Luke and Vader on the Death Star, on the second Death Star. Yeah, because because he's battling. We're seeing the lightsabers fly, but he's really fighting for his father's soul, and you don't get that in any other battle. I mean, I think there's probably within some of the animated series. I think especially with Ahsoka, who I'm really starting to learn to really appreciate. You get some of that, but like that climatic finale on the second Death Star, Vader and father and son, with the father fighting for whatever garbage that he's that whatever hatred and anger and bitterness he has for his entire life, and the son is really only fighting to redeem his father.
Question for you on that, Jason. Is that as you reflect on knowing who Anakin Skywalker is because of the prequel trilogy, or did you feel the same way as intensely upon first viewing?
I felt it that way on the first viewing, and this is why I don't like the prequel trilogy, because the prequel trilogy should have been about a tragic, flawed character, not a whiny bitch.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where this is exactly where the Clone Wars this is exactly where the Clone Wars succeeds, where the prequel trilogy fails. It provides that tragic arc that you're talking about, because that's the biggest failure of the prequel trilogy, is that in the overall
I don't like
scheme
sand.
Right. I mean, the overall scheme of things.
Oh God.
It's the story. It's the story of Darth Vader. Yet, however, I'm getting an echo. Where am I getting an echo from?
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that's you, Justin.
This was even established by Obi-Wan in The New Hope, of the tragic fall of Darth Vader, of Anakin Skywalker and becoming Darth Vader, and it's so glossed over. There is no emotional impact by Revenge of the Sith. So I totally agree with you on that. And like I said, as Travis I saw nodding over there agrees with me on this, is that this is exactly why the Clone Wars is the big fucking Band-Aid over that entire prequel trilogy.
Yeah, it really takes the best elements of it and turns it into something meaningful. Agreed.
It doesn't. People will say, I saw somebody say that it redeems the prequel trilogy. It fucking does not. Those movies are horrible. But what it does is it gives gravitas to what was really supposed to be important in the prequel trilogy that never was.
Right.
It cherry picks the best stuff and it puts it all in a nice, neat little package that everybody loves and enjoys.
Yeah, he certainly did.
Well, Jason loves and enjoys a nice package. So, and so do I.
That's what she said.
Exactly. Okay, Travis, you get the last word, and we're going to move. We can talk about this a little bit more because we've got some additional Star Wars news coming up on our next segment. So, Travis, wind us up on Clone Wars.
Clone Wars. It was a fantastic series. Much like what Shawn was just saying, it does provide some much needed gravitas in the prequel era, especially this final arc, which I will wrap up by saying Revenge of the Sith is probably my most disliked movie of the entire Star Wars movie lineage. It burst my inner critic in multiple ways that I find myself disappointed by in many ways. And this final arc, what it did, has made me reconsider that in some ways. I may want to watch that movie again with a new with some more insight. I mean, it's still a bad movie in my opinion, but I mean, with this final arc, with what it managed to do with the source material, I mean, it's just, go watch this fucking series already, guys. Just go watch it.
Okay.
Go watch
All right. That's a good
good
way to end this segment. Okay, let's go to our next topic. Also about Star Wars. That was the news that Taika Waititi, the New Zealand director who has helmed some amazing films, and also several of the episodes of The Mandalorian, has been given one of the upcoming Star Wars features to direct.
Yay!
And he is a very talented director and writer. And how optimistic are we that he will be able to redeem Star Wars from the disappointment? I don't, Jason, I think you liked you liked Rise of Skywalker, but I found it disappointing.
Well, he likes closure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Rise of Skywalker too. It's my favorite certainly among the new Disney era.
I think Last Jedi was better.
Oh God!
I'm sorry, but there was no. We've gone over this before, but it's just come on. It was like
Carlos is entitled to be wrong once in a while.
Yes,
occasionally.
I'll my perspective on this is that it's good to see. I think this is good for the fandom. I think this is good for the fact that they're bringing a A-list director to this that has already shown his tremendous chops when it comes to.
Wasn't that true with J.J. Abrams?
Well,
said the devil's advocate.
J.J. Abrams didn't do a bad job either.
No, he didn't exactly. But
he didn't do a bad job. He just added lens flare.
Let's look at after they had Abrams come out for The Force Awakens, they had a relatively inexperienced Rian Johnson. When I say inexperienced, for the franchise itself, and for these big, and of course for the big type of blockbuster films, and then they had who were those brothers that they had directing Rise of Skywalker before Abrams took over? Those guys.
Oh.
Well, you had
remember Abrams was not originally the
right.
The Russo brothers?
Is that who it
was? It the Russos?
No, it wasn't.
I thought it was Trevorrow.
Well, the
Colin Trevorrow, but it's just one of him.
Wait a minute, is it?
They went through multiple people. It's in the article that we have.
So we've got
Trello.
so basically, in Colin Trevorrow's biggest claim to fame before that was Jurassic World, was it not?
Yeah.
And before that, he hadn't done anything of substance. So my point being is that they have an A-list guy who's got a tremendous amount of positive experience with the franchise already, which is great, and it leads to less uncertainty about who's helming this. I think that's every time it's like hearing about a DC Universe film at this point, where it's like you hear about who's going to direct it, and you go, okay, and this puts everyone at ease that it's in good hands right out of the gate.
Well, but is it though? Like, I still think that Disney needs to bring in a Kevin Feige for Star Wars. They need
for the
somebody.
Franchise?
Yeah, for the franchise. They need to have somebody.
I think that needs to be Dave Filoni, frankly.
Yeah, I think
I think that's what he's been groomed for.
But they need to do it, and they need to make that person seem important because at the end of the day, if you're going to bring in an A-list director, if you're going to bring in a J.J. Abrams or a Waititi, it's like the basketball, the coach has to be better than the basketball player, for the sports analogy. because what happens is if you bring in Filoni isn't elevated at that level publicly, and he isn't the person who's seen as driving the Star Wars agenda for Disney and driving the Star Wars brand for Disney. Those directors, they're prima donnas, and they're going to get what they want over what he says anyway, and they're going to run roughshod right over them. So I mean, that's why that's why Marvel was able to hold it together for 22 films, because you had somebody who was able to wrangle all these top talent, A-list talent, and say, no, this is how we're doing it, and continue to focus on driving the ball down the field in that coherent story.
A coherent vision is what coherent and consistent vision. I agree with that.
You had an expert cat herder.
Yeah, really, exactly, and that's a brilliant metaphor. I love that, because
that's one of the things that Star Trek has been lucky to have with Alex Kurtzman. What I fear about the Paramount merger, the Viacom merger, is that they lose that. They're talking about other directors for feature films and stuff, whereas it should be one person driving the brand vision.
I agree. I totally agree, because I think that's probably been one of the biggest problems in this era is consistency. Because, okay, let's go down the list here. The Force Awakens, everybody loved it, even though we all recognize it was just a reboot of A New Hope. Okay, yeah. Then you get Rogue One, which had completely mixed reviews in the beginning. All of a sudden, it's become everyone's fan favorite. Which I don't get, because I'm still mixed on it. I do enjoy it. Then you've got the Last Jedi, and of course, which is very polarizing. Then you've got Solo, which is pretty consistently agreed it's a great film, but nobody fucking saw it. And then you've got, of course, we've got the Rise of Skywalker here, and all these films.
Don't forget Rogue One.
I already got Rogue One.
You mentioned Rogue One.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
Yep. And of course, then you've got
just like Rogue One, completely missed it.
But then if you look at like the animated series, you got Rebels, which was outstanding, and then you got Resistance, which was, I watched this and I went, what the fuck is this? And
it got better.
I'm gonna jump into it just because I keep hearing it got better. But
you got to sit through the really kiddie intro to really get to the good stuff.
Okay.
Like the first season of Clone Wars.
So, and you've got and the other side of this too is that you've got they're all over the place with their timelines too. And so, which becomes a challenge in and of itself. With the Marvel Universe, it's been consistent, at least it had the ability, coming out of the gate, its basis was a consistent timeline where we weren't jumping ahead or going back 50 years, 20 years, whatever the case may be.
Till Guardians 2.
So, well, okay.
Captain America, the First Avenger.
True.
You're right. So what am I talking
Captain
about?
Marvel.
Okay, but it's okay. Yeah, but okay.
But they feel like one off.
But it's all consistent with each other. We're not talking about these standalone films like Rogue One. We're not talking about or Solo. I mean, it seems to be all tied together, at least with the Marvel universe. Even though because Captain Marvel goes from the '90s and goes right into the future at the end of the film to where we are today. That movie solely exists to supplant her into that current timeline.
We got that in Rogue One, right? So at the very end, you have the data being passed over to Princess Leia, and so
many
Bothans
see where that gave their lives for this information.
Right, but
Return of the Jedi.
Right, but it's different eras completely is what it comes down to. It's not the consistent storyline here. And my point in this is that it's, along with this consistent vision, I think it would, and of course, The Mandalorian is sandwiched in between all of this. Right. And my point in this is that it would probably do the movie franchise, it would be better off if they were, there was a consistent vision and a consistent line to it.
Is it too late for that? I mean, they now have two out of the three trilogies that basically boffed it. I mean, is there more to mine out of
We've had this discussion about how much can you milk Star Wars for, and I think you can milk that shit forever. Yeah.
Well, if you do stuff that's sort of materially distanced from the Skywalker saga. I mean, the Mandalorian proves you can do it. So that's possible.
The Mandalorian's doing it in between the original and sequel trilogy.
But my point
Rebels,
is, there's no way.
Rebels, same thing. Resistance taking place concurrently with the sequel trilogy, and now you've got their experimental, the High Republic, that anything could happen, and then they can go even farther back than that.
Yeah,
and dig up Revan and try and do the Old Republic.
Yeah, that's been rumored to be floating around forever. The Old Republic as well.
You got the Old Republic, you got the High Republic, you've got the
but those
first
haven't
Galactic
been proven
Civil War,
yet.
You got the second Galactic Civil War. You could take it far into the future. You could take it to a brand new galaxy.
I'm not saying there's no possibilities here, guys. What I'm saying is that as far as the saga that we've seen in the 9 movies, it's done. You can't fix that in a feature film. The things that you guys point out, like The Mandalorian and Rebels and Clone Wars and so forth, those do fix a lot of things, granted, but not as films. They are animated series.
You're absolutely right.
You just fix the films.
The Clone Wars movie.
Okay, one at a time. Justin, then was it Travis? Were you saying something?
All they gotta do is reboot the universe. I mean, they've done it right now. I mean,
that would be even worse.
Look at Star Trek.
That would be even worse. Travis, go ahead.
I mean, the only thing I can really say here, as far as this bit of news about this director getting a new film, is that right now I find myself at a crossroads as far as the Star Wars films are concerned. I have half a mind to take a break from a lot of Star Wars right now, mainly because of the mess that the fandom made this new trilogy. It very much exhausted me. So this director is probably going to have to really wow me in order for me to rush to go out and see this new film. So that's all I can really say there as far as yeah.
Okay. Son, do you want to add anything here?
I have to say that I'm kind of in the same boat as Travis. I just don't care about Star Wars, honestly. I mean, you've got 9 films. You've got The Mandalorian. I watched The Mandalorian when it comes out. The Rogue One was nice. I watched Rogue. Look, why is it that I like all the other stuff and not the main movies anymore?
That's
exactly
the problem. That is exactly the problem.
I don't give a shit about the Star Wars movies anymore. I want the side stories. I want the stuff that is not this samurai western showdown shit.
Go watch the Clone Wars.
And see, here's the thing. I really don't care about the Clone Wars.
Well, you should.
Well, whatever you do, be
trying
careful.
Here, son. We're trying.
Jason is brandishing his lightsaber, so he's a very expensive Galaxy's Edge. Okay, we're going to move on to yet another Star Wars topic.
For those of you that don't care.
And that is news that we are going to see in season 2 of The Mandalorian, none other than Boba Fett. How do we feel about that?
I know how you feel, and I know how George feels. George is laughing at all of us right now.
Okay, wait. I never gave a shit about Boba Fett. My issue with George was around Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
George, God rest in peace, rest your soul. I love you. Your Boba Fett is your gimme, but Luke Skywalker, I will slit my wrists if they do that.
Season 3.
This show does not need to do that.
Finale.
They do not need to do that to be a successful show. They've already proven.
Well, you know what? You would have thought they wouldn't have to bring in Boba Fett either, but look what we get.
Well, he's a Mandalorian.
He's not a Mandalorian.
And he's dead. He's a bounty hunter.
He's a
dead.
clone.
He's dead.
He's a clone that wears Mandalorian armor that is actually regurgitated bantha poo or whatever, Sarlacc poodoo.
Poodoo.
Some characters just need to stay dead.
I
don't
agree
give a
with you.
shit. I don't give a shit
I mean, he's
about Boba
dead.
Fett.
Why
I
is
don't care
he
how many
bringing him
toys
back?
he sold.
Okay. I have two trains of thought on this. Okay. First and foremost, in the EU, it is a long and storied history of Boba Fett having survived Sarlacc and fighting his way out, and then he goes on to have many adventures after that. So what we've discovered is that in the Disney era, they're not averse to bringing things from the EU and inserting them into the live action and animated series. So I don't have a problem with it on that from that perspective. The problem I have is that The Mandalorian stands out so much on its own that it feels gimmicky for them to bring him in. I don't see a point. But then on the other side of that coin, though, is that they have done a very good job of being able to massage the fan service so that it's palatable. So I'm reserved on this, but at the end of the day, I trust them just based on what we've gotten from The Mandalorian so far. And by the way, what I'll be getting from The Mandalorian is next Wednesday, I'll be getting 3 little baby Yodas. So there.
Baby Yoda. I'm totally down with seeing Ahsoka though. So
I am.
that's cool.
Yes, I'm down with that.
I agreed.
But Boba Fett I agree with Travis. Some characters should just stay dead.
Even I agree that one should be dead. It stayed down. That is
Okay, so anyone excited about seeing Boba Fett?
I think it's cool.
Yeah?
I wouldn't say I'm hyped about it, but like, okay, cool. They're gonna bring him back.
Yeah, I feel like The Mandalorian has done its job as establishing itself as a great series on its own merits.
now,
what?
it would be okay if this was something like a flashback scene to have Boba Fett in it. I could live with that. But I hope
That would
he's
be
not
even
gonna be
worse.
like a main character.
That would be
What
even
would be
worse.
cool is if
Why would
Boba
there
Fett
be-
shows up and our Mandalorian wipes the fucking floor with him.
Yes.
Yeah. Do it. Make
I could live with that.
so hard.
All right, so Shawn, you bring us to our next topic, also a Star Wars topic, by having mentioned your soon-to-arrive Baby Yodas. Those of you who like to eat breakfast may also be excited about the Baby Yoda cereal coming to stores this summer. And it's a disturbing notion to me because if you look at these cereals, they look like Baby Yoda's head. So it's like you're eating Baby Yoda. What is that about?
Okay,
Have you not seen tie-in cereals and pastas before?
Yeah, and not only
They're
that,
all like this.
This is there was a Star
Does
Wars.
nobody remember the Han Solo in Carbonite Pop Tarts?
Does nobody remember the trouble with Edward?
Yeah.
Oh, good one.
No.
Jason wins this topic.
Yep.
You have a cookie.
This is just they've done the cereal before. It was a Star Wars cereal that had little marshmallow Yoda heads in it. It's not the first time, so just remember that.
It's just he's so cute. I don't want to put him in my mouth.
Oh, you just want to nibble on him? You know you do.
My first question was going to be, is it Froggy-licious?
That's what they should do. Have little
It tastes like chicken.
Okay, quick vote. Who's going to buy a box of Baby
Of
Yoda
course I
cereal?
am. Are you kidding?
I'm
me?
going to just to say that I could.
Yeah,
did.
No.
So 3 of us yes, 4 of us no. All right.
Oh,
Good to know.
one quick thing I wanted to, since we're on Star Wars, really quick. If you haven't checked it out lately, take a look at the Star Wars section of Disney Plus because the Mandalorian Gallery, okay, it's not just pictures, okay? What it is, it's all these behind-the-scenes vignettes that we've been talking about.
Well, don't forget the actual docu-series for The Mandalorian that came out this week.
Yeah, isn't that what I'm talking about?
Oh, I thought you were talking about, it's not a vignette. It's like It's a series.
No, it's a series. I'm sorry. Bad choice of words. It's there. It's a series. It's a docu-series, right? It's on there. That's what I'm talking about. It's labeled as the Mandalorian Gallery is what it's called. So don't be confused. That it's a full docu-series of the behind the scenes for the Mandalorian. It's outstanding.
All right, good note. Our last Star Wars topic of the evening is rumors that Disney Plus's delayed Obi-Wan series may be looking to bring Hayden Christensen back as Anakin Skywalker.
Yes.
Probably
I'm all about that.
in some kind of a flashback kind of thing.
No.
But what do you guys think? Does Obi-Wan still need Anakin?
I'm confused as to how that fits into the series.
Well, if it's a flashback,
If it's a flashback, makes sense.
It would be cool to see, like, Obi-Wan haunted by his head version of Anakin through the series.
You know what would be cool?
Okay, that's an idea.
You mean like he's there all the time and they're like he's having conversations?
No,
with the ghost of Anakin.
Like like he's like the Galactica 6, the Caprica 6.
Yeah, exactly. That would be fucking awesome. I would pay twice for that show. That'd be amazing.
My thought on that was that as he's watching Luke grow up, he sees Luke's behaviors, his mannerisms, the stupid stunts that he gets into, and he's constantly having flashbacks of Anakin and the things that he was doing as a young Padawan.
Interesting.
Hayden Christensen's kind of old to play that now, though, isn't he?
True.
Here's the thing. I think more than not more than, but almost as much as Jake Lloyd, Hayden Christensen is who I feel the worst for the entire prequel.
For sure.
Because it's not his fault that he got strapped with such shitty dialogue and such a shitty.
Yeah, I blame George Lucas, not Hayden.
Right, that's not him. Hayden Christensen's actually a decent actor.
He's a decent actor, yeah.
And I would love to see him be able to get some redemption, just on a personal note for the guy, to be able to come back. And,
Agreed. All right. Any last words from anyone on this topic? If not, we're going. Don't make him a whiny bitch.
Don't make
Redeem
him
him from
sand.
whiny bitch status. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to another upcoming Disney Plus show, and that is one I knew nothing about, and that is the upcoming Fury Files, which it is the story. It is the story of Nick Fury's files on the various. It's an animated series coming to this month to Disney Plus, in which apparently each episode looks at a different file that Nick Fury has on some character in the Marvel universe, and so I guess technically that makes it an anthology series. But yeah, it's coming up May, or I don't remember the exact date. I'll look it up while you guys start to talk about it. So how do you feel about the Fury Files?
Maybe I'll give it a look-see.
I think it's worth a try.
Give me a rock.
Is it tied to the MCU, or is it going to be its own standalone canon?
It doesn't specifically say that, but I mean, he looks like the MCU. Nick Fury, so
yeah, I don't like the Marvel shows because, like, as much as they promise good continuity with the movies, they always wind up dropping it because it becomes inconvenient. Their lack of commitment to that just soured me to the Marvel.
It's like the opposite of the DC universe,
right?
Where are you talking about the difference between Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the movies?
Well, I mean, like, for the most part, they, if you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if you're invested in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they pretty much stayed pretty close to the movies until the snap. And then once the snap happened, then it all kind of fell apart. And then, like, was it even worth it?
But the problem with that show was that they purposefully made it not really overlap with any of the movies. It was like movie adjacent, not movie related.
Right, which is fine, but when
I think that was its tragic flaw.
Well,
No, see,
there's a
but-
reason
but-
for that.
But I think when the movie adjacent, I mean, I think that it was fine to be able to do that because you were able to take like the rise of Hydra, right, and the toppling of Shield. You're able to expand on that, and so you're able to take this the one kind of concept in what is it the second Captain America movie, Winter Soldier, right? You're able to take parts of that and then really flush that out, expand on it, and make it a really like its own thing. But once you got to the snap, right, that the snap became too inconvenient for them to be able to carry on the stories and make it part of the same universe. So they just diverged it, and it didn't carry on. And so it was like I was watching this because it was movie adjacent. I was watching, the Netflix shows because they were, movie adjacent. But then when it just they wimped out when it got hard.
Well, okay, there are two things there. One is that the Netflix shows worked overall. The reason they were canceled is simply because
Disney
they can't
Plus.
do it on Netflix. So I think that worked. But the reason it worked is because they were like actual legit Marvel characters that people actually care about. And I don't feel like any of the characters or few of the characters on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were that way. They just felt like
all loved Coulson.
Yep.
Well, yeah, but he was in the movies. So I felt like I was watching a bunch of
felt nothing for Ming-Na Wen.
Oh, I love her in anything. I mean, yes. I mean, that's because I love her, the actor. But
And May was a pretty awesome character. I loved her arc
Yeah.
throughout the series.
yeah,
Well, the series isn't over yet, right?
but for the most part, it was a bunch of second stringers, and I just, I lost interest after the first season.
But was it the whole premise of the MCU based on the second stringers of the Marvel universe anyway? Like if it didn't work for you, it's because the writers didn't make the
Wait,
characters.
are you talking
compelling.
about the MCU or about Netflix?
Oh, the MCU in general. He's right.
MCU in general?
I mean,
the reason why they went with the Avengers is because the popular Marvel characters, Spider-Man and the X-Men, were already spoken for with and so they had.
Well, but I wouldn't call Captain America or anyone in the Avengers a minor character.
Iron Man, not minor, but
it's
an issue of popularity.
I think we're being colored by this side of the MCU. I think if you look at it from that side of the MCU, Captain America I'll give you, but Iron Man, Black Widow, Iron Patriot, Hawkeye, like all those characters were the second string of Marvel.
Well, here's the thing you got to keep in mind about Marvel Television. Up until Disney Plus, everything that was Marvel TV was run by a completely different studio. It was that was not under the direction of Kevin Feige. So when it came to getting the information about upcoming Avengers, they didn't always get it. And when it came for Infinity War, they didn't get anything. That's why those shows are being phased out. That's why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really didn't tie back into the movies. They
Actually,
from the movies.
The first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the finale is literally the final scene is the first scene in the Winter Soldier. It literally bleeds right into the Winter Soldier.
Right, but it was only one way.
It doesn't go the other way. You're right. You're absolutely right. But
and that's part of my issue is that they're of zero. I won't say zero. They're of little consequence to the larger universe.
See, I like him as standalone. So it's a thing. I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I do.
We've had this argument before.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Right, but I think.
Go ahead, Jason.
I think your problem with this is some of my problem with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was that they didn't develop they didn't take the backbenchers, as you called them, and develop them into front benchers like they did with Hawkeye, right?
Sure.
I mean, and that is the failing of the show.
They made new backbenchers is what they did.
Well, another thing
backbenchers.
to keep in mind, that pretty much everyone who is on the Avengers team in the movie were at least some of the original Avengers in the comic book.
Oh, yeah, of course. Indeed.
So, yeah, they might not be as popular as they were before the MCU came into existence, but historically they were there.
And the Avengers were, as Avengers, as a group, is a first string.
I want to point out something. There is something that has annoyed me about that because it is clear, I think, in the first season that the idea was to try to keep this connected. They had fucking Deathlock in the first season, okay? And then they just abandoned it.
You guys, this is not a topic of relitigating Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., okay?
Oh.
And this is about Fury Files.
Well, it is for me.
So let's leave that at that. What I will say as a last program note about Fury Files is that it is specifically about the history of the most famous Marvel superheroes and villains. So each one will open one of the files and give you some, S.H.I.E.L.D. perspective, insight into, the greater superheroes of the Marvel universe. So I think that by itself elevates it over Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Sorry, I'm relitigating.
You need a spin-off show too off of this one, The Halls of Hydra, where they do the same for the Hydra.
I like that name. Okay, so that is our last Disney/Marvel related topic for tonight. Couple of quick program note things for things that are coming up. One is the 7th and final season of the 100 on the CW. I don't remember how many of you are fans of that show. I am. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant show. One of its stars was one of the stars in my first film, so of course I like it for that reason. But they just released teasers. Interestingly, they do not have a trailer yet. Apparently something is holding it up, but it's supposed to, I believe it debuts this month on the CW. Who else here likes the 100? Shawn?
I got 2 episodes into it and bored the shit out of me.
Yeah, see, the first few episodes are not great, but it picks up at the end of the first season, and then from there on, it just gallops. Anyone else?
I liked it up to a point. When they had to pick 100 people to survive again, it started to kind of lose me. It seems like they're constantly just whittling it down and down and down, and it's just diminishing returns until everybody's extinct.
That's not actually what's happening. I mean, there's way more than 100.
Well,
right now.
I'm behind. I'm behind on the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, in fact, I was just thinking about that today. I was like, God, it's called the 100, but there's like way more than 100 anymore on this show. So anyway, I have no idea what that was about, but anyway, it is
the final season.
Yeah, I got hit with an arrow trying to look things up about the 100. Damn you.
Okay. It's it actually, give it a chance past its first season, because it picks up, and
I was my wife wants to watch it. I loved it.
My wife wants to watch it, and we're running out of episodes of The Office, so I think this might be the time.
Yeah, it's all on Netflix. So
you could just restart The Office.
That is true.
Oh, God. The Office was great once.
You could check out Steve Carell's next show.
Thank you,
Ross.
Good
segue.
And that is Space Force, which we mentioned.
Space Force.
We mentioned briefly.
Space Force.
It's basically The Office meets the Air Force, right?
It's The Office meets the military industrial complex.
That way.
No, God, please, no, no.
Except in this, except so far in the trailer that we've seen, he's not Michael Scott.
The way
is he bumbling though?
He doesn't seem to be in the trailer. He does. He seems to be surrounded by bumblers.
Okay.
So it's more.
I like this.
So it's more like pigs in space.
Based on what I saw in the
that
trailer,
make him Link?
The Office in space.
It's hard to say who's bumbling. He's certainly not having a good go of it in the trailer.
No.
But it looks like it's going to be really, really funny. Jane Lynch is in it. She's the Secretary of the Navy.
Oh, really? I
Or not
see anything
she's
with her in it.
She's the Joint Chief of the Navy.
When I watched it, I actually got a vibe that was similar to like a very well executed parody of SG-1 almost. That's what I was getting from it. Maybe not like with aliens, but like the way it was centered around like the command and how like, there was something that just immediately made me think this is just a parody of SG-1, and I'm honestly looking forward to it. I'm very curious of
There
what.
she is.
Every time I think of Jane Lynch, I cannot. The only thing that comes to mind, and I know she's been in a lot of things, and I can name probably most of them, but in the 40-Year-Old Virgin, she is so fucking funny.
She's funny in everything.
She was so brilliant in that movie.
I love her in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She's fantastic in that.
Glee.
Yeah, of course, Glee. That's like her.
Right. That's a given.
All right. So it sounds like who's going to give Space Force a chance?
Oh yeah.
Fuck yeah.
For me, for sure.
Raise your hands.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean-
we'll give it a chance.
And I just love Steve Carell. I mean, his roles are so diverse. You know, he reminds me very much of Robin Williams and the diversity of the roles he takes, because he does these really hard and dark, serious roles, and but he falls right into comedy like it's a glove.
Yeah.
Steve Carell's great. I mean, we were talking about The Morning Show. Did you finish watching The Morning Show, Carlos?
I sure did.
What a fantastic fucking series that was.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
he took a character that you want to think of as evil, like Harvey Weinstein, and still made him three-dimensional, and you could understand his motivations even if you didn't agree with them. He was a fully realized character, the best kind of sort of, if you want to call him a villain, that you can imagine. So yeah, he's definitely an actor who has that capacity. All right, so we'll give it a watch and maybe schedule a formal review here.
When does it come out?
Show.
By the way?
It opens May 25th. Is it that soon? Oh, okay.
May 29th, I think.
What network is it on?
Netflix.
It is on Netflix.
Netflix. Awesome.
Oh, the
May
day after I get
29th.
my DVD installed.
Okay, so let's move on to our next topic. This is something I saw that we were talking about in the Super Geeks, in our internal Super Geeks chat this week, and that is the announcement that a sequel to Demolition Man from the 1980s was in production, to which my response was, yawn.
Yeah.
Who's
no.
excited about this movie?
I'm convinced that the whole reason this exists is because of all the damned seashell memes everyone was sharing at the
start of the
at the
coronavirus.
beginning of March. I'm looking at you, Justin.
I had a few too.
To be fair, I probably gave him that idea, so sorry.
It's May 29th, by the way,
Okay,
for
it
Space
was-
Force.
It was great.
I was right.
It was literally the first meme I posted on COVID-19 was instructions on how to use a three sheet seat. You know what I'm saying?
So the film,
The three shit shells. There you go.
Demolition Man is based on Brave New World, right? I mean, that's kind of the premise of
With
it.
action.
With action, right? It's with action. So I think if we can, there was a sequel, or kind of a tangential sequel called The Island, which was kind of like this paradise. I think if they approach it from
Is that the
way,
one with Ewan McGregor?
Yep, I like The Island. Everybody hates it. I liked it.
I actually like The Island.
Good.
Too.
Yay, high five.
Yay, Sean.
No.
I've
This
seen it
isn't
too,
like the movie The Island. There's a book called Island that was written by
Oh.
Aldous Huxley as a sequel to.
Oh, you expect us to
Brave New World.
read. I see. Okay.
So if they were smart, they would go that route. Otherwise, I mean, Brave New World is one of the. It's an incredible book. I read it in science fiction and fantasy in high school. It's one of the things that really kind of like, as I was like progressing, it's what really hooked me into science fiction beyond just Star Trek.
Yeah, for sure.
So
My issue with Demolition Man is my issue with sequels to Ghostbusters. Demolition Man was a perfect film for its time, in that it successfully parodied and satired the contemporary times by showing us what it would lead to in the future, much like Idiocracy does. And
Which is frighteningly on the mark.
right. So it's kind of like, it's like in like RoboCop, didn't need any sequels. Same thing. Excellent parody and satire of contemporary times. And that's my issue with this. It's like, and leave it alone. It's good. I mean, I doesn't need a sequel. This is what ruined Rambo, literally, because the First Blood is a great fucking movie. And then it's just dog shit from that point forward.
Well, it became a caricature of itself is the problem.
Right. And that's what I don't want to see happen to Demolition Man. Is, you know, a different type. Yes, First Blood and Demolition Man are two entirely different films, but the same concept applies here. I don't want to see this film become a caricature of itself. This quote unquote franchise, as it were. It doesn't. It was great for what it was. It's a type of movie that you can go back and you can watch again and again, and you can just throw out lines from the film, and that's how it should be. It's, you know, it's kind of like, this is why I think what I don't like about Back to the Future 2 is that it doesn't hold up, you know, for me, you know, in 2020 the way it should, because
have you been around the last 4 years since Trump has been elected? It holds up quite well.
Back to the Future 2?
Yes.
I'm not. Well, the only thing that they got right was the Cubs winning the World Series. But you're
talking about the future, the envisioned free future.
One of the first movie posters I ever owned was Demolition Man, and I've still yet to actually see it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Let
me send you a link to a torrent site. Wait.
I'm pretty sure I can find it on Amazon or somewhere.
Yeah, shame on you, Shawn.
We don't officially support torrenting. Please support the official release. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure you can download it from Amazon. Let me see how much it'd cost you to rent it from Amazon, Russ, and maybe we can do a GoFundMe to get you the money to rent it.
Yeah, we'll do a GoFundMe.
If it's on Amazon, tell you what, I'll host a watch party here on Twitch, and we can all watch it together.
And you know what? We're gonna sell.
That's actually illegal, but
we're gonna sell
not.
some.
Yeah,
it's $2.99 to rent on Amazon Prime.
No, Twitch has just released a watch party feature. So if it is on my library, I can host a watch party of it on my Twitch channel through Twitch.
Officially. Oh, good luck with that.
It is
just because they have the
feature.
ability to do it doesn't mean that it's legal.
Actually, the streaming part is what would get you in trouble. It's not the receiving part. Everybody watching, that's not a problem. It's the streaming part that gets you in trouble. So speaking of which, I don't know why this is not in my Blu-ray collection. It needs to be.
Wow, that is actually the shocking news here.
Really, considering how big my Blu-ray collection.
Okay, well you find it for Ross offline.
I'm finding
Jason,
it for him too. We're gonna get you
$2.99 to rent it on Amazon Prime. I'll start the GoFundMe for you, Ross.
There you go. It'll be up.
I think a lot of people are so focused on, you know, it's a remake or a reboot or a sequel of something that doesn't need to be sequelized. And sure, the story itself for Demolition Man is a self-contained thing. But the story of that universe itself is one that is left completely open-ended by the end of Demolition Man.
You know, the problem I have with that is I really don't give a shit about that universe. It was just it was the fact that it was self-contained. I'm kind of freaked out by this notion of an entire country that only has Taco Bells for restaurants, to be quite honest.
It's not even that it's an entire country.
It's an entire planet. You're right.
It's not even an entire planet.
No, it's just the city of San Angeles.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that it? See,
like the whole lore for Demolition Man is that America went to shit. It went to shit so bad that this dude wound up creating a theocracy, worshiping himself, and rebuilt most of America where Taco Bell would. And
okay,
now
so
let's
do a final roundup. How many people want to see Demolition Man 2?
I'll definitely watch it. I'm interested.
Okay, son. Anybody else?
I haven't seen.
Not a resounding.
I'll watch it. I don't know if I want to watch it, but I'll watch it.
Will you pay to watch it?
Depends on how many good one-liners.
Or is this a wait for Netflix?
No, if we can get, as long as they get Wesley Snipes one-liners in there, I might pay to watch it. Because there's nothing better about 90s movies than Wesley Snipes one-liners.
That is actually true.
Wouldn't it be a hilarious commentary if Wesley Snipes was again frozen and the reason why was for tax evasion?
Oh,
That would-
Wesley.
Uh,
Okay, let's move
and
to
by the way,
our.
Demolition Man is on Hulu. If you all
Okay.
have that.
Oh, good to know.
Hey,
That means it's
guess
free if
what?
you have Hulu.
Guess what? Ross, shoot me your address. You get in the mail.
Oh, all right.
Whoa, there you go. See,
I'm taking care of it right now.
ask and ye shall receive. Thank you, Shawn.
Because it's $6 and I just ordered one for me.
Okay, so we don't have a lot of coronavirus stories in this week's
Thank
topic
God.
lineup, but we do have two.
Hallelujah.
One of them was the news that pay TV, so that's basically cable companies, lost big in this first quarter thanks to the coronavirus, apparently. And they're losing subscribers at a vastly increased rate thanks to the coronavirus. So I thought it would be interesting to ask the rest of you, how many of you still subscribe to cable, and do you foresee yourself becoming a cord cutter at some point? Ross?
I haven't had cable TV since 2008.
All right, voting with your feet.
Yeah, though I did get in a deal with Cox where they gave me just HBO and Cinemax. So, but that's different.
Okay. Jason, how about you?
So when we moved to Utah, we did actually get a cable service with Comcast along with the internet, and we watched it probably maybe an hour in the 4 or 5 months that we had it. I'm one of these people that are counted as a cord cutter in quarter one because we, really just fired Comcast altogether and went to a local fiber company, and really it just isn't. It doesn't make sense anymore. Like the idea of me flipping through cable channels to try to find what I want to watch when everything, with video on demand basically, is there. Everything should be video on demand.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you there. I haven't had cable TV since about 2007. I've done nothing but streaming. I can't see having to pay for that service when it's much cheaper just to buy streaming packages and get what you want. And the wonderful thing about it is whenever you're done with it, you just unsubscribe and you don't get a contract violation or anything like that. I mean, it's just so much better to do streaming than it versus having to get roped into a contract and worry about cable boxes and everything else that constantly fail because it's cheap equipment. I mean, cable TV is a dying breed. I think we're going to see a transition over to nothing but streaming for too long.
Yeah, it's definitely moving in that direction. I think the interesting thing is that this is really these companies brought it on themselves after decades of monopolizing markets and terrible customer service and ever increasing prices. They saw the American TV audience as a cash cow that would never be, they could never stop milking. And now that they have true competition, that is coming back to bite them. This quarter, pay TV has never lost so much money as it has in this last quarter. So that's a pretty big deal. Streaming services, of course, continue to be on the rise. I still have cable just because it packages a lot of the networks that I like to watch. So, but I split the costs, so it's not costing me a lot. If I had to pay the full bill, that would be, close to $200 a month, and I can't afford that.
See, I just don't see. I don't see the logic behind that because in this day and age, because I mean, you're paying $200 a month for channels you don't ever watch. I mean, it doesn't seem logical to me that have to pay that much. But with streaming, the wonderful thing about it is, okay, you just pay for your internet connection. That can be up to $70-something a month, depending on how fast you want to go. It's not more. But I mean, that would be the most expensive thing that you got to pay for it, and then you're not even paying $100 for your streaming packages. So you're paying.
Oh, don't think that streaming packages aren't going to rise in price and that you'll end up paying almost as much.
Oh, they will.
So people who thought that unbundling cable packages would result in lower costs overall. That's doomed.
What I would say though, Carlos, is that how I would challenge you on that is that there is actually true market competition within the streaming industry. So they still have to be able to provide their content at a value with the right market value.
There is right now. We're pretty sure that not all these streaming platforms are going to survive. And once that happens, prices will go up because
some have already died.
Your View.
Anyone remember Go 90?
Yep.
No.
Well, how about
never heard of it.
PlayStation. That article pointed out that PlayStation View just shit the bed at the end of January.
Right,
Yeah,
but I mean, but Go 90, PlayStation View weren't content creators. They're invested in creating direct distribution to their
That's
consumers.
correct.
Whereas,
If you want to talk about a content creator, you've got Netflix, who raised its price from what, $7 to $14?
It's $15, $15.99 for, but that's you get. There's different levels.
Yeah.
It's 14 if you don't do 4K.
Yeah, I do 4K, and
I
I've got 5 TVs. So
again, I mean, there are price points, right? So it isn't like one price fits all for Netflix. You have, I mean, we're on like the two house, so we still pay like $12 for the 2 TVs or 2 devices or whatever.
2 screens.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're going to continue to see that. You'll like CBS All Access. I think they're smart by having a free option or a advertising option and an advertising free option.
Mhm.
I think you're going to, but I don't think that you're going to see like you're not going to pay $40 for Netflix. I mean, I just I think that as long as there isn't that market, as long as that market competition exists, they'll all because the difference between that and like cable is that there was no competition. Your local government assigned, basically sold the franchise right away to the highest bidder, and then they operated the cable within that area, and there was no choice unless you went with like DirecTV. But I mean,
the other side of that though too, and this is, the reason it's like how Carlos mentioned that don't expect that these prices, by cutting the cord, that going to all these streaming services, that these rates aren't going to go up, because the reality of it is that what these content providers have done over the years, the reason why you have, your rates and your cable what they are, is because of the content creators, the providers of this content, have the cable companies, the satellite companies by the throat here, as to what they charge them really. And there's a reason why people always say, why can't I just pick the channels I like? Because that's not how it works. That's not how the cable companies and DirecTV buy the channels. They buy them in packages. So for every 10 channels, whatever they may be, you're going to get maybe one network out of that you like. But that doesn't matter, because what it comes down to is the only way that your satellite or cable provider could get that one channel was to agree to pay for the other 9. So, you don't watch Home and Garden TV. Well, it doesn't really matter, because the company that owns Home and Garden plus 9 other channels, that's how they made the deal.
But that still doesn't address the issue of the single market or the single provider captured artificial monopoly that's created by local governments who only give out the one right away.
Yeah, I mean, one is talking about content creation, the other is talking about retail, basically sales to customers.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you don't have many. That's true. Most markets don't have multiple options for cable or satellite. I mean, I'm a DirecTV subscriber, but I'm on the same boat as a lot of you. I've been noticing that how much I've been not using my cable, except for it gives me the option to log into the AMC app to watch Better Call Saul, because I'm not even bothering watching it live or even on the DVR anymore.
Yeah, I don't watch any TV live anymore.
No, my DirecTV subscription is basically there so that I can sign in to the network apps and websites. That's basically why it exists.
Is it an option? Because you could probably try Sling.
I actually did try Sling at one point, and I don't subscribe to it anymore. If anything, Sling basically showed me that broadcast / cable TV just isn't the same as it was. I didn't care for the fact that like there were just so many channels just doing marathons of one show each day or whatnot. Like TNT did so many marathons of Law and Order, which granted I enjoy, but I mean, it just got to a point where it's like, what's the point of cable anymore if it's just basically just marathoning this syndication stuff?
That's how I saw the original Battlestar Galactica.
What was that, Ross?
I said that's how I saw the original Battlestar Galactica, through 2 or 3 days of Sci-Fi Channel marathons.
Frankly, if Sci-Fi Channel had done that while it was still airing, it probably would have. Oh, you're talking about the original Galactica?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, Sci-Fi did that too. They did marathons of the original Battlestar Galactica back in the late 90s. I forgot. I lost my train of thought entirely on this. But
sorry, Shawn.
No, there's. I was thinking about this. People getting all excited because CBS brought back Saturday Movies of the Week, and the first one last week was Indiana Jones, and I'm like, I can just put that on Netflix. What do I need to watch it on CBS for with commercials? I don't understand. What's the appeal to that? The appeal to me for that? I don't understand what the big deal is. Who wants that? I mean, and that's where I'm at with this, is that I'm not really convinced that I really have a reason to have.
Do you know what the ratings were for that?
What were they?
I don't know. I'm
not
curious.
A clue. No, I don't.
I think that would be significant because there are lots of people who do not subscribe to Netflix. For them, just calling it up is, I mean, it's why you see Harry Potter weekends on so many cable channels with commercials. For the same reason. It's like there are a lot of people who can't afford or don't want to pay for cable, so they rely on broadcast networks with commercials to provide this content for them. I mean, it's why Pluto TV is supposedly turning into this big hit for it's owned by Viacom CBS, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched it. I have the app, and it's like, yeah, I mean, they show a bunch of great shows, old shows, and some good current stuff, but it's like those commercials drive me crazy, and there's a lot of them.
It's so intrusive. Try watching Mystery Science Theater 3000 on Pluto. You'll want to jump off the roof of your house when you're done.
Exactly, and that's a show that was originally aired on a commercial network,
right,
with TV commercials. So they're just not. Yeah, it's doing really well. Pluto TV is doing really well.
Yeah,
Except the buffer's like crap.
Yeah, it does.
It's really bad during the ads, but I noticed that's when it just,
which I'm fine with.
TV is also
but then getting it back to its actual content is the problem, because it's delay there.
When I'm watching the latest episode of Cops and it starts buffering, it drives me nuts.
Pluto
I didn't even like that the first time. Okay, wait, folks, one at a time. Son first, then Justin.
Pluto TV is also horribly repetitive. Hey, I'd like to actually get into this conversation for a bit. So first off, nice infographic, Carlos. When I first saw it, I thought of the Watch World War III on Pay TV song from the Library of Congress. It's interesting. You should go and check it out. And two, I can't disclose the particulars, but yes, I do have cable.
Ah, okay. No more information is required. Justin.
Yeah, I tried Pluto TV back whenever y'all first recommended it, but that was a big turnoff for me, was the fact of all the ads. I mean, that's one of the nice things about streaming. You choose to go ad-free, and I have to put up with that nonsense. You don't want to.
Yeah, I'm usually okay with streaming. I mean, I have Hulu with ads. I had CBS All Access with ads up until very recently, just because I wanted to watch Picard all the way through, and probably will never
That
go back
got
to ads.
bad there towards the end. That got really bad there towards the end. That beginning wasn't so bad, but as Picard progressed, it seemed like they just added more and more and more and more. And then just like, okay,
Yeah, I didn't feel
enough.
like the number of ads was terrible. It's just they do feel a little intrusive to the flow of the show,
Right.
and they're always the same ads. That's what drives me crazy. Hulu used to do that all the time. They're a little better now in terms of, changing up the ads that they show, but it's the ones that repeat every commercial break that drive me crazy. Travis, where are you on? Are you on cable still or ever?
No, definitely not. But I was going to. You were asking about the ratings for CBS's Saturday night movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, if you're interested.
Yeah.
Updated live plus same day, 5.235 million viewers, 0.59 adults, 18 to 49 rating. Live plus 5.359 million viewers. Looks like a decently average show.
On a Saturday night, yeah, it is.
For a Saturday night, as long as they didn't have to pay a ton for the licensing, then probably it was a moneymaker for them.
That's a Paramount movie. They didn't pay shit for the licensing.
All right, so there you go. I mean, there's your answer. They don't need to have a ton of viewers. They just have to have enough to.
You say it was a 5.3 share? Is that what it was?
That was the 5.3 rating. The share was, what was the share? I mean, the shares on a Saturday night are not going to be that significant.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's.
I'm not sure if I'm correctly. I'm not sure what here. I'll take a screenshot and see if
it sounds like it did incredibly well for a Saturday night, to be quite honest.
Yeah, with ratings, there are two metrics. One is the actual ratings numbers, which is basically how many people watched it,
right?
Households watched it, and the second one is the share, which is of everyone watching, what proportion of them were watching this particular show.
I sent a screenshot to the messenger chat, so if someone wants to share it on the thing, since I can't exactly do it through my
Live
iPad.
Plus 3 was 5.35 million new viewers, a 0.59 adults, 18 to 49 rating. So I mean, I think it's a pretty respectable number.
Yeah,
but if you look,
sounds like it.
Yeah, but if you look at what's coming up what's coming up for the next few weeks, we have Forrest Gump, Mission Impossible, Titanic, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Anyone know what all of those movies have in common?
Paramount.
They're all Paramount films.
Yeah.
It's almost like this merger worked out or something.
No, it didn't work out. At least that's what the people on the internet tell me.
Well, I mean,
the
merger I never thought was a great idea, number one. And number two, Viacom CBS is not doing so hot. They did not impress investors with how much it cost, how long it took, and
but they did gain $1 billion in market share in the last few days.
Well, yes, some things have turned around.
I'm glad
time will tell.
Yeah, this is long term here. This isn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think the moves they're making with All Access that we discussed earlier are really what's going to drive the future of the company.
That's definitely the money.
Would you like to invest in my new business opportunity? I call it Krusty Krab Pizza.
Okay, so speaking of cable shows, this is just a quick news item, not really a discussion point, but as I was searching for stories this week, I came across this item, which is the Breaking Bad version of Monopoly, which is hilarious. They've replaced like the community chest cards and stuff with, they're called Heisenberg cards, and the other set of cards are Walter White cards, and they're his underwear. And I just thought it was funny that the playing pieces, my favorite one is the teddy bear missing its ear.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
And its eye.
And there's, stuff, lots of references to the characters, Tuco and others. But I just thought it was funny. Monopoly is so smart about making. I mean, isn't there a Star Trek monopoly?
Yeah.
There's a monopoly for everything. There's a millennial monopoly.
Oh God, that's
To
hilarious.
quote
Baltic Avenue is your parents' couch.
To quote Marge Simpson, the game's crazy enough as it is.
It looks like
Indeed.
the White House's boardwalk, and meaning the Walter White House, not the
Right.
White House. You store it is on here.
That would make sense. So you store it. That's where all the money was.
We've got Badger's Bench, the Crystal Palace, Taco Casabria, Los Pollos Hermanos, different properties.
They're really milking the shit out of his tidy whities, though. Jesus.
They are. Tuco's Hideout.
Well, it was one of the things when before I started watching, I saw one of the ads for it, and it showed him, Bryan Cranston, in his tidy whities, and that completely turned me off because it reminded me of what was the show he was on, sitcom?
Malcolm in the Middle.
Malcolm in the Middle, which I loved, but he was always just so bumbling and inept and everything, and in a funny way. And I was like, it's the same character. I'm not interested. Of course, 3 seasons later, I discovered it, and I'm like, holy crap, this show is good.
So when we eventually play this on Zoom, I got Downs in the RV.
We should do it on Zoom, you guys, sometime.
That sounds like a fun idea.
Yeah, we should. We'll follow up on that. Okay, moving to our next topic, which is a game topic, and that is the news that Nintendo appears to be up for sale, or is targeted for a hostile takeover. Ross, this comes from you. Want to bring us up to speed and see what we all think?
So a couple weeks ago, as we were building up towards Nintendo's big earnings call for this week, as everyone is doing all the corporations are doing theirs, a quote-unquote activist investor is gobbling up shares with the intention to try and influence Nintendo's direction going forward. To quote them, or to paraphrase, they want to see Nintendo become a much broader entertainment company, branching out into movies and other licensing deals, and to try and get a more active share of their users' revenue in the same vein as companies as EA and Activision.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Somebody should get this guy a copy of Good to Great and let him read it, and then understand why Nintendo has always done well.
Yes. The company is called Value Act. They are a venture capitalist firm out of LA, I believe. And although they have denied allegations that they are trying to make a hostile takeover, their acquisition of so many shares is a concern. But Nintendo has said they have systems in place to prevent these kinds of hostile takeovers, so they're not overly concerned, but they are aware.
It's called the Yakuza.
Make no mistake about it. The Japanese are very, very prudent when it comes to hostile takeovers. They will definitely have systems in place to keep stuff like that from happening, especially if it's an American investment company.
Yeah.
This is the reason why it's people like this that are the reason why we have 47 fucking varieties of Oreo cookies. That's all I'm saying. You don't need to diversify.
I don't think anyone can sum it up better than that.
And yet we only have 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins.
But they're changing them through. So it's like you have more, but there's only 31 at a time.
Right. Can you imagine how bad it would be if it was 90s, Baskin Robbins 97? Oh my God.
Are we complaining about birthday cake Oreos?
No, those are pretty good.
No,
actually,
we're complaining that I can only get Cherry's Cordial in August, which oddly is my birthday, so yay.
You know what the
I
best
came in on birthday cake Oreos. What did I miss?
What did I get last time that was just like the best thing I ever had? I hate to admit this. I think it might have been the cheesecake one. The cheesecake Oreos, oh my God, they're to die for.
The Swedish fish Oreos can go to hell and die.
Has anyone ever actually had those? Because that
doesn't even make any kind of sense.
I would like to try them, but I have a saying against Oreos: the cream does not agree with me. So.
Wow, this diverged from Nintendo really fast.
Yeah, because
was that you, Jason?
What did he
say? That's what she said.
That's good.
Oh, no.
All right. Any other thoughts on a possible Nintendo takeover?
Jason broke himself.
Well, I mean, I think you know,
Oh, yeah.
of all the business models to not don't, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Nintendo is the pinnacle of this. I mean, for fuck's sake, have you? I try to find good deals all the time on like older like DS games and older Switch and Wii games. The secondary market on that shit just doesn't go down in price. Period. Because
Oh,
you know,
Switch games, no, they don't.
not at all. Even Wii U games, not Wii games anymore, but Wii U games now. They still are way higher than you would expect. If it's got Mario's name on it, okay, you get a DS game with Mario's name on it, expect that it's going to be $30 to $40. Seriously.
I'll tell you what. I have a Wii, and it is fun to play in 2020.
Yep.
We have a Wii U and a Switch, and
So do we.
I prefer playing the Wii U, but the Switch is good for the kid.
I like
That's
my
the-
Switch a lot.
That's the thing about the gaming industry. So much of the gaming industry is about playing catch up, and Nintendo's out there creating its own path.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
Smart about that.
Yeah, they're not worried about they're not worried about capturing the market share that wants to play Call of Duty. They're worried about the market share of like you know, the parents who are paying gobs of money to keep their kids entertained.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
They want the market share of people that want to have fun.
Yeah, the whole reason the Wii was successful to begin with is because it was the exact opposite of everything else out there, and they specifically targeted the market that Sony and Microsoft were fighting over, and that's why it was so successful. I mean, it specifically targeted the market that Sony and Microsoft weren't fighting for. That they weren't beating each other. They just said, let's just go in and get into casual games and.
Right, the games you can just play on a Saturday afternoon for a couple hours, but you're not committing your life to finding out the whole story. You just want to play tennis with your kid.
Yeah.
It was a system. It was a system for non-gamers. Is basically what it comes down to.
Me.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to a new game coming out. This is thanks to Shawn. And I assume you've seen this, Shawn. The Assassin's Creed new trailer came out. We have a link in the Trello, and you have feelings about this.
Yeah, it's apparently the Assassin's Creed franchise is just becoming God of War. It's just basically a button masher now, which is really disappointing to me because this was such a rich and just magnificent universe that has, you know, Ubi has just gone completely off the rails with because.
Oh my God! It really has, hasn't it? They started in Greece, and now they're going.
They started in the Middle East. Mythology. They started in the Crusades.
Yeah, it started in the Crusades.
No. This new iteration of Assassin's Creed started with that Odyssey.
It started with the one in the Egypt.
Well, or you're talking about Origins, but Origins is certainly closer.
No. Odyssey is like this whole Spartan thing.
No, I'm saying Ross is talking about Origins, and Origins is certainly much closer to the franchise that preceded it. But Sun is right about Odyssey. Odyssey is where this kind of started. I plugged in Odyssey, and I got through about 20 minutes going, why am I doing nothing here but hitting buttons? What is going on here? And it's, it's just very disappointing for this franchise that it's gone this way because it was rich, brilliant storytelling, and there was so much to do in all these games, and it's just gone off the rails. And it's very disappointing to see that this is what they're going for.
How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah,
speaking of feelings about games,
that's Ubisoft for you.
Yeah.
Another company that was fighting off a hostile takeover.
Yeah, I'm curious to how they're going to fuck up Far Cry 6. That's my next question.
Far Cry 5 is pretty good.
Far Cry 5 is fucking amazing, but Ubisoft is determined to fuck everything up. So, determined.
For now, we're going to get Ross's feelings on a surprise he had this week to discover that Mortal Kombat has an expansion coming out that he did not know about.
Well,
Ross.
it's not so much that. It's okay. So here's the thing. We talked a lot about the gaming industry today and how they often like to play the safe path, how they always go through the formula, how they follow trends, and how these companies that are so driven towards profit, they're deathly afraid of trying to go off the beaten path and do something different and new. And when it comes to fighting games, you don't usually expect to talk about the story, the single-player campaign, the single-player experience. More and more, the gaming industry has been moving towards a game-as-a-service model, where they put out a product, they update that product over time, and milk as much money out of the user base as they can until they sunset it and move it on into maintenance mode. And then move on to the next thing, like Call of Duty. There's always a new Call of Duty coming every year. You can set your watch by it. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable. Activision is not gonna let that property die. They're not going to try and do something different or new. They have something that works. They have a formula that works. They're gonna go with that and not really bother with anything else. And that seemed to be the case with NetherRealm Studios and their kind of alternation between Mortal Kombat and Injustice. They'd come out with a Mortal Kombat game, release a bunch of DLC, and then swap over to their Injustice, and then alternate with sequels. So, when we're coming to the end of the first Combat Pack with the release of the DLC character of Spawn, which I was pretty excited for, he's a lot of fun to play, I expected that to be it for Mortal Kombat. That it would go into a maintenance mode, they'd keep the servers going for the people who enjoy playing it like they have for Mortal Kombat 10, and they'd move on to Injustice 3. And then this trailer dropped. Not only are we getting a brand new single-player experience that continues the story of Mortal Kombat 11, which I was kind of... It ended oddly for me. I didn't really like how it ended at first, but it grew on me eventually. They're continuing the story. They're releasing more playable characters, and they're adding in new features, like what Carlos showed briefly there with the friendship finishing move, which hasn't been seen since Mortal Kombat 3. Friendship. They're as I said, they're adding in new fighters. They are a whole new single-player experience, and the fact that they're doing that really resonated with me. I'm very happy to see that they're doing this. That they're adding to the single-player experience as well as the continuing online experience.
All right. So our final gaming note for the week was the news that I have to tell you, this is one of my two favorite stories this week, along with the Baby Yoda cereal. Baby Yoda cereal and this story, which is Cyberpunk 2077's is allowing people to customize the genitals of their characters.
Avatars with tits and dongs.
Hey, look, it makes complete sense. Honestly,
It's Batman Forever all over again.
You're talking about a society that is fully modular. Why wouldn't the genitals also be modular?
So
this is why when I get into these, so like part of the trans community, obviously. So like I get into these arguments all the time about people who are like, I don't like Cyberpunk and this, that, or the other because it's like they're obviously transphobic because of this one poster ad that was in like 3 seconds of a trailer, and it's like, are you this stupid? In a future where you can literally take off an arm and put on a bigger, hunkier arm to beat people with, you don't think you could literally take off your junk and put on new junk and still be a supermodel?
So here's the background for this. CD Projekt Red is the Polish developer of this game. They made their fame with the Witcher series, which is a very well-received, widely renowned RPG series based on the books that the Netflix series was based on. With the success of The Witcher, they started branching out into new properties, and this is the very, very, very long-awaited new title in their library, Cyberpunk 2077,
very, very
which is
long.
Yes, yeah.
That's what she said.
2012, I believe, was the first trailer that they released for this. Witcher 2 was out when they released the trailer for this. So Cyberpunk 2020 is the source. It's an RPG setting in the far future where, as Sun said, cybernetics is a common common technology. You can augment your body in any and all ways that you want. And one of the main features that they talked about in character creation is that there is no traditional gender selection. Your character is completely customizable however you want. They can be as masculine or feminine as you want, and you can mix and match parts as much as you want, including, as they announced yesterday, genitals. So you can create whatever kind of character you want along whatever spectrum you want. And as a result, Australia has rated this game adults only.
Womp womp.
That's actually an amazing reversal, considering it was going to be banned outright in Australia.
Yeah,
up until like this week.
So to not sound like Josh from Big, but I don't get it.
I mean, what don't you get?
I don't get it. Like, I don't get like why your virtual avatar needs tits or dong. I don't get it. Like, it just doesn't like. I mean, like there's.
The question I think comes down to, is this upgrade like upgrading an M4 in Division 2 where it actually does something for me?
Beyond
Can I actually use my big dong?
Beyond the way your character looks, how you want your character to look, I don't know if it'll affect the story all that much besides how people react to you.
Look,
if you're trying to charm somebody who's attracted to a specific body type and you're not that body type, well, it's not going to go too well.
I know I can naturally exclude Carlos from this question, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. How many of you guys spent hours creating a character in Skyrim?
Not me.
Not me.
I'm pretty quick character creation, honestly.
It's like it's literally just that. It's like you creating a D&D character.
Do you know what I do to make this so much simpler? I just try to make them look like I look like when I was in my mid-20s. That's basically what I do. I just want to look as badass as I did then. That's the goal here. So
that's what my Second Life avatar looks like, is me in my mid-20s.
There you go.
I mean,
I forgot what my Second Life avatar looks like.
This really follows the trend of like your Saints Row, where you had the male-female option, and then you had the sex appeal slider, which either gave you bigger breasts or bigger junk.
So here's what I'm afraid of, though, bringing up Second Life, Jason, because I haven't played in Second Life in, a decade probably. But I did visit Second Life a couple years ago in covering the Axanar hoo-ha, and I covered an interview that Alec Peters gave on
That's right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and
he's so mad.
And it wasn't just the way he portrayed himself in that. It's like, if you give people that much creative control over the way they look in the world, in a virtual world, they will do some weird ass shit. And I can tell you from looking at some of the people who are in the audience for that interview in Second Life, they have some weird ass shit going on that I don't think I want to see.
Listen. I don't.
Hard for that.
Everybody has their freak, I get it, and whatever. I don't get digital sexuality at all. Like, I just don't get it. Like, maybe it's because I'm too old. Maybe I just like when I see, like, whether it's Second Life, whether it's having junk on your cyberpunk avatar. It's a foreign concept to me.
Are there screenshots? I'm morbidly curious.
I'm sure there are.
I left a picture of what I'm going to do to my cyberpunk character in the Zoom chat. So copy and paste that.
Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, we'll take a look at that, son. Okay, so I think we
morbidly curious.
Our final. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at this. Now, it's not fair to the folks at home that they can't see this. Are you sure you want to share that publicly?
If you share it.
I'm pretty sure we could show this.
Yeah,
I'll show it.
Okay, you show it. Thank you.
So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do with my genitals.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Sofia Vergara's strap-on in Machete.
Y'all are weird.
Yes.
The only thing
my avatar's a fish lady. Come on.
the only thing I could think that would possibly top that would be Chuck Norris popping out of there, and then another Chuck Norris fist pops out of his beard. Like,
Well, what part of us did you think was not weird? Okay, I mean seriously, weird is part of the package.
He said package.
yep.
Weird is the normal
Stop
here.
it.
That's what she said.
Stop it.
Beat you.
Stop it.
Damn it! I missed it. That's what she said.
You're an admin of what the largest Star Trek group on Facebook. You're weird too, dude.
And,
Yeah,
and the Pee Wee Herman shit posting group.
Yeah, you created a Pee Wee Herman shit posting group.
Yeah,
And that-
10,000
that-
members.
And
Whoa.
weird ones.
We're never
Our
gonna-
Starfleet officers, Mr.
100,000
Tim.
plus.
Weird is part of the job.
All right. On that happy note, we're going to come to our final topic of the night, and that is, what are we watching? So, how did we do this week? Let's start with you, son.
Well, what I don't come back to me.
Okay, I'll come back to you.
I'll go because I don't want anybody to steal mine.
All right. You want to go next, Jason?
Yeah, I watched Upload.
I did too.
Yeah, so it's starring Robbie Amell. It's created by Greg Daniels, the creator of The Office. I was expecting it to be kind of a comedy in the vein of The Office, like but it really wasn't. It really was a lot more of a drama with some humor to it. I thought it was outstanding. I thought that it was an incredible social commentary on kind of society now, and I consider myself to be a capitalist, but it definitely had a lot of critique on the more abusive sides of capitalism. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was an incredible concept. That was, this idea of digital uploading yourself has never necessarily been done well. I think this is the first time I've seen it where I thought it was really done well.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I was pleasantly surprised. I really wasn't planning on watching it, but Amazon just kept pelting me with ads for it, and I was like, okay, I like Robbie Amell. I'll give it a try. So
They broke you down.
Yeah, they did. Well, I mean, I like Robbie Amell, so you see he's butting it, so I'm okay with that. So I tuned in. I watched the pilot, and I have to say, I will be watching another episode.
I watched the whole thing.
Jason, quick question: did you watch this with the wife or by yourself?
By myself.
Okay. Is it something you think your wife would be into?
So my wife probably not, but I think it's something that you could watch with Michelle's not really big into sci-fi.
That's my wife isn't either. That's why I asked. Jason, you and I think.
But this is only sort of sci-fi. I mean, it has a sci-fi premise, but it's really more of a relationship.
My wife is very, very. Here's the thing. My wife has enough of being being an elementary school teacher, of shit in her life being complicated all day, that she likes her entertainment very basic. So it's like, it's not a knock on my wife. It's just that's how she chooses to escape.
Right. Michelle's very much like a Grey's Anatomy, like what is it, Bluebell, whatever that show was called, Gilmore Girls type viewer.
Straightforward.
I love
right.
Gilmore Girls.
Right.
I'm not saying it's not good. We've been able to find This Is Us as something we can watch together because it is a little bit deeper than a lot of that stuff. But like The Office, West Wing, those are shows that she just can't get into, and I think that there's that complexity here that she wouldn't enjoy it.
Okay, fair enough. Anything else, Jason?
That was pretty much it. I mean, I watched the entire 10 episodes this week. So
okay. Ross, over to you.
Well, the young one's control of the remote has seen a lot more Cars with Faces and Blippi on repeat. But in the little bit of television and entertainment that I've been able to get to myself, a lot of YouTube, a lot of gaming videos, gaming story videos, and a lot of World of Warcraft speculation videos. But the standout this week is from Rooster Teeth's library. They are re-uploading their animated series called The Nomad of Nowhere. It is I call it frontier fantasy series set in a kind of an Old West-like setting. but with magic and mercenaries and a lot of some really interesting concepts. I encourage you guys to watch it. It's very different, very unique, very fun.
All right. Thanks for that. Travis.
Outside DuckTales, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and William Shatner's Bohemian Rhapsody music video, I have been hopscotching around Star Trek this last week, mainly because I'm doing another countdown in the big group, and that usually incurs me hopscotching around the franchise. So, yeah.
All right. Over to you, Shawn.
Well, oddly enough, I've been watching a lot of. I've been trying to burning through the series of Comic Book Men. I don't know if you guys remember this series that was on AMC. That's basically it's Kevin Smith's comic book shop, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, and it's kind of like Pawn Stars. It's got that kind of feel to that show to it. It's a lot of fun. It's been pretty good. It's pretty fun with the kids watching it. I've been watching a lot of video game YouTube videos lately too, like historical ones. I watched a history of Grand Theft Auto and of L.A. Noire the other day. That was really good videos. L.A. Noire was such a great game, and I didn't realize all the history and the development behind it.
Oh yeah, it was very well researched.
Yeah, and also
didn't they do like a full-on like realistic 3D thing of all of Los Angeles? They
did. See, this is the thing about they were very like in all video games, they got to condense this down, but they were very period accurate with all that. But the bigger thing about that game was the facial depictions in that game, the photorealistic facial depictions in that game, and how they actually did it with these multiple cameras on these actors while they sat in a room and literally could not move at all. Anything from the neck down could not move in order to get this done. And it was like, it's funny that like one of the criticisms of the game was that the faces are so perfect. They needed to be for this game because part of the game was that you had to tell by facial movements and tells whether people were lying to you when you interrogated them or not, and things like that. And but it's like from the neck down, it's like everything is like terribly blocky and almost like watching like GoldenEye from the 90s, the game. And so but that was a great game. The history and the controversy behind it was really fascinating on that. As
nothing Rockstar does is not everything Rockstar does is controversial.
Right, exactly. But actually, it wasn't. They actually bought the company that was making that game midway through in order to publish it. So this really wasn't Rockstar's, but a subsidiary of Rockstar, well into development by the time Rockstar took it over. I've been watching a shit ton of The Office too. Also, I found out that for $2.99, you can add the Shout TV channel to your Amazon Prime account, which is great because you get all the Mystery Science Theater 3000s that they have in their library, and you get tons of old shows. You get the Thunderbirds, and I think Jerry.
You told us this last week.
I did.
Yes, you did.
Did I bring it up here? Okay.
Yeah, because we had a whole Thunderbirds Are Go little tangent.
Okay, I thought we were talking about it after the show. Anyway, so anyway, I got that.
Maybe.
I didn't think it was. I don't think it was in show that we talked about.
Okay.
Anyway, it's the best $3 I've ever spent. You get the first one for free anyway. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Space 1999 is on there.
Yes, it is. I've seen it on there.
And
I actually enjoyed a rewatch of that.
I'm subscribed to their Twitch channel. They're always broadcasting something from classic Doctor Who to other indie and obscure movies.
Yeah.
And the first month's free?
Yep, first month is free, and it's only $3 after that.
I'm going to look at that, because I haven't seen Space 1999 in a while.
I have finished up Homeland. I haven't finished up Westworld for the season yet, but Homeland had its series finale last week, and they ended the franchise series perfectly. It was so well done. This was a great season. It was a good swan song for the franchise, for the Homeland franchise on Showtime. So.
Okay, son, are you ready, or should I go to Jason? I'm sorry,
yeah,
Justin.
I'm ready now.
All right, go for it.
Okay, so speaking of Jerry Anderson stuff, the Nebula 75 was supposed to be a one-off, but it actually had such a good reception. They actually made a second episode, and that was released this week. It's actually pretty interesting. It's a continuation of their, and they got a lot of crap for saying 33 million miles from Earth as their far-flung into space number, right? And so they made a big deal about going, this is not supposed to be scientifically accurate. It's like, just chillax. But yeah, no, that was great. Okay, so some of you may or may not have been in the LGBT community in the early 2000s. There was this neat little quirky film called Girls Will Be Girls. And it starred a lady that I've been following for quite a while since, a drag artist by the name of Coco Peru.
Oh, yeah.
Well, as it turns out, one of her co-stars in the film reprised his drag role, Evie Harris, this week. And she's been both on Facebook and on YouTube with her videos complaining about life in Hollywood. And it's been fascinating just to sit and watch Evie Harris complain about not being old again.
All right.
There was another thing that I watched this week was Joe Rogan had Elon Musk back on. That was fascinating.
He wasn't smoking weed, was he? Because we really need to get this rocket up at the end of the month.
No, he wasn't. No, they were asking about his kid's name. Because
it's unpronounceable or something.
Yeah. But one of the last big things that, for this week was that I found a creator called Hats Off Entertainment, and they have been doing like these short 20 to 30 minute kind of mini documentaries over actors like Gene Wilder and Jim Varney, and it's like, God, now I want to go back and watch Ernest movies and shit, you know? So yeah, that's definitely go and check out Hats Off Entertainment.
It reminds me, I mean, I know we're wrapping up here, but has anybody seen the new Josh Gad YouTube series?
No.
Basically, it's called Reunited Apart. So the first episode was the cast of The Goonies, and they're going to drop an episode on Monday with the cast of Back to the Future.
Oh, cool. I go to YouTube right now.
Early Bill Nye the Science Guy.
So, as long as we're doing promos for shows we're interested in watching, I'm going to give just one, which is this a comedy special on Netflix called Middleditch and Schwartz.
It's in my queue.
Yeah, it's their completely improvised comedy specials. It's a series, and so Thomas Middleditch, of course, you may remember as the lead character in Silicon Valley, and Ben Schwartz was part of, well, I guess the main cast for I'm forgetting the name of the show on Showtime. I'll look it up, but it was a pretty good show. They're both funny, and a lot of the stuff they do is sort of classic improvisational stuff, but it seems really topical, and it's in a big audience, so there's a lot more potential chaos there, but the trailers look pretty good for it, so something possibly worth investigating. Let's see, Justin, did I already ask you yet? So what'd you watch this week? What'd you watch this week?
Well, I had on a rewatch of all of season 1 Star Trek. Thanks to Travis's little quiz earlier this week that he popped in the chat, and I failed horribly at. Thanks, Travis.
devilish, Travis.
I was like, well, ain't got nothing else better to do, so might as well. I've also been streaming quite a bit the last few days. I did a playthrough of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite on Twitch. I beat the story mode in under 4 hours, which is probably, all that great, but, hey, it's first time to be streaming like that in a while. I've been just other than Star Trek playing video games. That's been pretty much about it.
All right, great. All right, Ross. No, we started with you, didn't we, Ross?
You started
yes,
with
we
me,
did.
yes.
Cars with faces.
Many cars
Travis,
with faces.
Have I gotten to you yet? I did.
Yeah.
That means it's Shawn. No, Shawn went too.
What?
That means it's me. Great. Okay. So I told this show I'm going to watch what I did watch this week. I was feeling a little under the weather. Don't worry, it wasn't Corona earlier this week. And so I spent a couple of days just resting. And of course, resting means watching television. So I got in a lot of TV watching this week. I binged the first season and a half of The Medici on Netflix. And it was actually pretty darn good. They just released the third season this past month, and so I thought, well, if I'm going to watch the third season, and the trailer for that looked pretty good, so I figured I'd have to start at the beginning. So that's what I did. I also watched this just lovely little poignant drama on Netflix called The Half of It, about this girl who she's like the smartest girl in school, and she makes money for her and her father by writing people's papers for them for school. And what's hilarious is that her teacher knows that this is going on, but she doesn't care enough to stop. She says, what if I turned you in, then I'd have to read their actual stuff, which is terrible. So she says, I'm very impressed by 6 different takes on the same topic. Anyway, so the girl is known around school for someone who will write stuff for you if you pay her enough money. So this jock asks her to, it's basically Cyrano de Bergerac, and asks her to write a letter to the girl he likes. And she at first refuses, but she needs the money, so she does. And it turns out the girl that he likes is also a girl that she likes. And chaos ensues. And it's very sweet, and this isn't a spoiler because it's one of the first things you hear in the film in voiceover. Nobody gets what they want, so that was intriguing. It's worth a watch. And then let's see. I thought there was something on Hulu I watched, but I'm blanking on it. I watched on HBO. I watched the new episode of Run, which is still holding my interest. And on Hulu, I've been watching Normal People, which is being touted as the great millennial love story. I don't know what that means, but it's a pretty good love story. So I do know that it has some of the most romantic looking sex I've ever seen by straight people. So because they also show other straight people having sex that are not, well, it's the different leads, but with different people. And it's not very interesting at all. So maybe it's by contrast. I don't know. Is that how millennials do it? Let me know. Yeah, I think that wraps up what I did this week. I'm watching Defending Jacob on Apple TV. So that's still holding my interest. It's an offbeat role for
Chris Evans?
Yeah, thank you, Chris Evans. I had the Chris, lost the Evans.
Yep.
So it's worth checking out. The episodes drop on Friday. So.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm glad you mentioned that because that was one I was very interested in seeing. So
I forgot one. So if you guys are interested in hearing what a Big Finish audio production sounds like,
oh, that new one that just came out.
Doctor Who this week released an episode from Big Finish on their YouTube channel of the Paternoster Gang, which is Jenny the Silurian and Strax the Sontaran, and it's called The Cars That Ate London.
Now that sounds like classic Doctor Who.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, that I think brings us to the end of this week's show. Thank you all for sharing your wisdom, insights, and TV watching habits. And remember to come back next week. I hope you have a happy Mother's Day this weekend. Stay safe. Stay 6 feet away from other people.
Before we go,
yes.
Our condolences as the Super Geeks to Adam Isle and the guys
yes.
over at the Geek Easy. Adam Isle lost his father on Tuesday, so they've been kind of crazy over there.
I bet. Well, condolences to Adam, who's been a frequent visitor on this show. All right. Any final notes before we take off, folks? Yeah, he's a good friend. And the best avatar.
Yeah, friend.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that winds up Super Geeks for this week. We'll see you again next week. We'll have another great set of topics, and thanks for joining us.